YouTube, Brian Phillips. You got a box, brand new. Look at this. What is it? Oh, you already know. You saw the thumbnail. Cheaters. We're gonna open this right now on Brian Phillips RC. We love to show you start to finish exactly what it takes to get in the air. And when I say in the air, I mean from the chair to the air. You can literally follow the link, buy this, support Brian Phillips RC, get it shipped to you, and you can start from that step right here. F-18, brand new, high fidelity version. The high fidelity version, whatever that means.
Okay.
So FMS makes a mean plane and they add all sorts of interesting literature to their commentary. But they had something they put on their marketing the other day and it just made me laugh out loud. And if you guys saw it, let me know if you know what it was. It was some Christmas thing. It was hilarious. But that's okay, they make a good plane, so I'm not gonna complain anymore about that because this thing looks absolutely fantastic. Oh my goodness, it's a V2 or a high fidelity version, whatever that means. Wingspan, 735 millimeters. Overall length, 1,009 millimeters. Flight weight, approximately 1,100 grams. Okay, motor size, brushless, 2840, 3150 kV, and 40 amps. It's got 9-gram servos, 5 pieces. And then it calls for a 6-channel radio. I'm pretty sure that's not necessarily correct, but we'll talk about that later. 64 millimeter ducted fan, we already knew that, 12 bladed though. And it's calling for a 4S, 2200, 2600, 25C minimum. So we'll probably be flying on 30Cs is my guess, if not 50s. That thing looks gorgeous. Fixed gear. Blech. Sorry, I had something stuck in my throat there. But I gotta say, absolutely fantastic looking. Can't wait to get it out of the box. We're gonna do it right now. If you're brand new to Brian Phillips RC, don't forget to subscribe. Click the bell for notifications so you know when new stuff comes out. Or you can just see me in your feed and click. But we really do appreciate you guys being here with us. We're 9 years deep in this endeavor, and it is amounted to many, many. Oh, by the way, this is officially licensed from Boeing. Does not have the MCAPs. Just don't even bring it up. I promise it doesn't.
You know they will.
Every time. It's not a 737.
Right.
All right, here we go. Oh yeah, look at that. It does look pretty dang good. We are excited to see this one. What you guys don't realize about this is we have the V1 sitting in our office ready to go. It was next on the agenda, and then they released this in the meantime.
Yep.
That's how Speedy Gonzales we are. Kudos, not folded manual. Love it. Thank you, FMS. This has one of these weird like end reliefs. So all I do is just go through and cut the tape so it's easy to pull them. So we'll just start, oh, careful, don't move this one alone. Check this out. Look at this, break that off, slips out. Carefully pull your wings. Oh yeah, LEDs. Nice. Oh, hon, look, we get to do labor for the Chinese.
Good.
Yay, okay, lights, beautiful. Nice paint, it's thick. Stiff wings. Guys, I gotta say, you know, just look at how nice this wing connects in. Plastic, big bite point. Beautiful, everything is jigged and painted after those are installed. The CG is marked in the plane,
nice.
For God's sakes. Finally, they're listening. Pinch hinge, puke.
Well, what?
I'm sorry, I can't help. Sometimes that happens. Pinch hinge.
That's what they all are.
No, they're not.
Wow. On this size class?
64 millimeters. They're not all pinch hinge, but a lot of them are in the smaller planes. Okay, so we have a nice robust manual and it's gonna show all sorts of information like the build and assembly and CG and all sorts of different things. Really fancy. Remember, that's a few different languages there, so don't be overwhelmed by how big it is. This does come with the full ordnance pack, which is pretty cool. If you're into that, I have found that we don't typically use ordnance. We might fly it once just to show what it looks like. Foam to protect the foam from the foam. Packaging on FMS is usually second to none. We've not had a lot of problems with them. Oh, it looks like they give us numbers, which is kind of nice. Oh, that's pretty sweet. And Chinese letters. So those will help you understand what the numbers mean if you don't read English.
Okay.
So we're just gonna, oh, this thing comes out. This thing, whatever this is, I don't know why it's like that. This opens. Why?
Why?
What the heck? There's nothing in there. There's a cavity for something.
I wonder if that's...
I wonder if they have like a ready to fly that comes with a reflex or something as an option, but we just aren't doing that option. Beautiful nose cone. By the way, I'm gonna show you something. If you guys just remember to protect your tip, when you stick it in, you can wipe that clean, okay? To the ground. Clip style, nose cone. And by the way, beautiful details. I mean, this thing is gorgeous, okay? So far, I gotta say, for being a small plane, extremely detailed landing gear, holy cow. I know I had a little projectile vomit sound there, and that was truly from the heart. But I gotta say, if you're gonna do fixed gear, you might as well do them gorgeous with rock hard diamond sharpening rock hard tires.
That's gonna hurt our driveway.
Yeah, that's right. We may need to actually put a special chemical on the driveway so that it does not cut our driveway. But look how sweet that looks. Look at this. That's this. Oh, spring loaded. Why are we doing spring loaded on fixed gear? Amazing. Love it. Got this tow fixture that would normally drop down and then pull it on the aircraft carrier. It's pretty cool. And we have wing joiner that just rolled out. So carbon fiber, listen, carbon fiber for sure. And we got a little discus here. That's for quality. I'll just throw that in the garbage can. Uh-oh, seriously, come around. I want you to show the people so I don't lose this. My nutsack had an explosion. See, ooh. Look right there. Look.
Oh,
my nutsack lost a grub nut.
Not be a good thing to lose.
Grub screw. You know what that's part of? So guys, look, I just stuck my hand in here and I broke it, okay? This grub screw almost certainly goes to the landing gear. I want you guys to check for that. I don't know if it goes here or if it goes, definitely goes here. Yeah, see? Yep, definitely. See that, how easy I hope it's not stripped. I don't think it's stripped. So you guys can see the flat, the little angular face, and then the drive end. If I had a driver, it'd make it a little easier to do this. Camera crew is trying to give you guys a shot through my hands. When we figure out X-ray vision, we will go ahead and start doing that. Just wear lead clothes so we don't scare anybody off. Sorry to plant that image in your mind, folks. I repent. That's interesting. I'm assuming this is a real picture. But there's something happened there.
Interesting artwork.
That's a missile.
Is that detection?
What it is? That's a missile flying at it, okay? And
flying at what? Is this how that plane looks from the back?
Yeah, no, that's not from the back, that's from the front. Oh, that scared me. I thought I got two lefts. Okay, so obviously the wings, the vertical stabilizers on the F-18 are canted out like this. And you'll notice one minor detail here. We don't have to install our control horns on the rudders.
There's no pesky rudders.
It's a pesky elevator, Ian.
Are those? We're gonna have to glue those in too.
Somebody brought up Ian the other day.
I know. I noticed that on the
comments. In the comments, so I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah.
So Ian was a guy. I bought this plane, this ASH-26, from a guy. I met him at his casino, and this guy was a nice guy. He's like a motorcycle. He's like old guy. He's got a big mustache. You know, goatee, and just like, you know, rides in on his motorcycle sort of guy. And anyway, so he sold me this plane, but he flew sailplanes, pinch hinges here. Beautiful paint goes down into the seam. I don't know if they reinforced that with glue. It feels a little spongy down there, so I'm kind of guessing they put a seam of silicone in there. Anyway, so Ian and I meet up at this casino, right? And he had to sell this plane. And I swear to God, he wanted this plane still so bad. Like he just didn't have storage space, or he needed the money really bad or something. Anyway, I bought it from him. And it was an awesome, it was a composite ASH-26, and I had to do some assembly, and it was like more or less new Unbox. I think he'd done like some minor assembly on it, maybe finishing like the nose cone or something like that. Because it was, I was gonna do a powered glider. I think he might've done tow. So anyway, he told me in the midst of our conversation, look, Brian, you don't need no elevator on a well-adjusted sailplane. I'm sorry, probably not doing his voice right, but I've been making fun of that forever.
Yeah.
Which, even though he's probably 100 times the pilot I'll ever be, because those sailplane pilots are amazing. Yeah, we've been making fun of that for years. So he's probably right.
Whoever was watching long enough to know who Ian is.
Yeah, to know who Ian is.
Maybe
it's Ian.
Gosh,
look at that detail there.
They have like decals on the little hold still.
Awesome. Do not paint.
Do not paint. It looks painted to me.
They painted the do not paint. That's one of the radar fins. Look at these air scoops. By the way, that is a functional air scoop.
It sure is.
And I gotta say, plastic, but you can see in here where it's hollow.
Yeah.
I'm not a big deal, guys, but just remember, if you belly land a plane, note to self manufacturers, when you belly land a plane, such as this plane, because a lot of people are gonna just omit the landing gear. Even though the landing gear do look sweet, a jet in the air flying around with landing gear and ordnance, like what the heck? I mean, landing these planes is not the best experience in RC, okay? Beautiful. I do love that they've ported this out to 2 holes, which is, again, not uncommon, but we have a thrust tube that actually extends past the foam.
Yeah.
Okay, this thing is probably gonna sound good. It's gonna look dang good doing it, but it's gonna probably be limited in its flight performance because of the lack of rudder, okay? Push and release, pops this open. XT60 equipped. If you have a problem with that, I wanna be like you when I grow up, okay? Because I do not have that problem. Look at that.
How are you?
If you stick something in there, all the way in there, well, I don't know. That's probably a good, based on my measurement system, that's probably like 20, 30 inches in there.
Well, that's not a very wide diameter to get in.
Well, okay. There's that, guys. And then get this. The rest of the box is ordnance. Okay? When I talk about ordnance, I talk about there's a lot of ordnance on this plane. And so in my world, ordnance becomes, oh wow, look at this. They have that same weird logo on there. I'm assuming that must be real. You got to remember, this is officially licensed, so you can't make fun of it because it might be real. And by the way, that's why the scale lines are so dang good on this plane, because it is quite literally a licensed product of Boeing. Okay? So I'm going to stick this on the tip. If you wouldn't mind doing the honors, please. Just force it in there. Wait, you gotta line it up first.
You said force it in, I'm not left-handed.
Oh yes, that is so dang good looking. I love it. Look at the canopy, look at the dude. The dude is a little bit big. He's probably about, I would say 2/3 to half again as big as he should be. But I do like that they have that. Now, the other thing that's interesting is they chose to do a trainer. Do they always do 2 seats in an F-18? I didn't think they did, but I could be mistaken. Leave it in the comments below, I'm sure you will. The sidewinders, I assume these are sidewinders. Wait, I can't tell. Are these the wingtip ones? Probably. It's kind of hard to, nope, these are not the wingtip ones. These ones are gonna go under here. What the heck? They get glued on? Oh, those ones are inboard. Right here. Booyah. The blue goes down on this side, look. Oh yeah, sweet. Again, note to self, you can't belly land with that on there. So if you're considering a full ordnance pack and you want to belly land this, then just don't do that thing. Because it's gonna rip them off on the first landing. Unless you can bring it in and hover it and catch it, like John. Do it, John, promise. Okay. So look at that. So that's gonna go on the wings, of course, and they've got the slide on rails. I don't know which position this goes in. Looks like it, yeah, that's the outside one. And you can tell which side they go on because they just line up properly. They might be ambidextrous. I can't tell. Let's just see. So you can see they key into the opening in the front and then go back. Wow, look how close that is to your servo.
Yeah.
I was gonna be digging into that. But it's pretty sweet. Okay, so I am gonna take that back off. Just wanted to show you how that worked. And then of course we're gonna get the last of the ordnance out. It looks like we do have sidewinders on the wingtips. Now these ones are probably gonna be installed and stay on my plane. But keep in mind, you can actually fly without them. One gripe I have on this and many other RC airplanes is that I want to be able to have missile rails without missiles. Because most of the planes that we see in shows and things like that, they don't have missiles installed, okay? I like that there's missiles on it, and I'm gonna wanna fly it with these missiles installed, but I wanna be able to take those missiles off of the missile rails. That being said, FMS was good enough to actually give us a missile rail. We could cut along that, paint the edge, and then you would have a, just a missile rail, okay? So that is kind of a small gripe, just to be clear. We point out the things we see. It doesn't necessarily mean that it makes a plane any less of a plane, but it is what our initial findings are.
Okay, and then in gripes, you said 5 pieces on the box. Who's Who's counting? It's a lot more than 5 pieces.
Well, let's talk about 5 pieces then. China, listen. It's more than 5. All right, how many are we talking about?
That's a lot.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 5.
7. You didn't count that one.
I mean, I'm not counting. Let's not count ordnance. Let's
Okay,
put
fine.
the ordnance over in the pile. Just for grins and giggles. That's inboard. Guys, I'm going to lay this out the way they're going to go on the plane-ish. Kind of hard to do this exactly right, but it's sweet that you can do that. Okay. We also have a nut and bolt sack.
We do.
It's going to take a few minutes. It's not going to be a hard build.
It's not going to.
This build's going to be quick. Everything bolts
is.
together. And by the way, I got to say, okay, so we recently did a competitive offering from another brand. Hold on. That way.
Oh, that one?
Do you see
Got it, yes.
Okay. So if you guys remember, and we try out new releases, we try not to like tout every other brand. That's not a new release, by the way. It's like 3 years old. But it just reminded us just how really good FMS planes have gotten, okay? Mm-hmm. Now, that's not to say that there aren't other competitive offerings that are better and also good, or somewhere in that realm, okay? There's obviously going to be better planes. They're gonna cost a lot more, okay? And that's the truth from Brian Phillips RC. We tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help us God. And even if it's to our own detriment, believe me, it's worked against me my whole life. But telling the truth sometimes is expensive, okay? We still try not to beat these plane manufacturers up because there are a lot of things you could do differently on every plane, up to and including putting rudders on a plane this size and this magnitude. I mean, look how gorgeous that thing is. I love the slender body and the fact that it's long and stretched out just like it would be in real life. Absolutely gorgeous. Even though I'm probably not going to even hardly think of flying. We're going to fly it with the gear because I love wheels up, wheels down, but I'm going to be disappointed by the plane when it flies with the wheels, okay? Because every single plane like this, every single plane, and I mean without exception, pretty much sucks big donkey balls with the gear on. And if you add the ordnance, they suck even more, okay? Now, that's not to say that you can't do it and enjoy the experience, but I'm gonna tell you this from experience. If you get this plane, you're not getting it to fly with the landing gear. You're gonna get something that's gonna have retracts. But where exactly are the F-18s, Camera Crew, right now? We used to have an 80 in Blue Angels from E-Flight, probably made by FMS.
Probably.
Okay. That was a power suck. It killed your battery. And it was a cool plane. 80 millimeters was not enough power on 6S. It needed to be like an 8S platform. And I didn't know any better because it was right when we were starting to get into these jets ourselves. But I can tell you this right now, if that thing was re-released in an 80 and it wasn't that goofy, I mean, Blue Angels is cool and everything, I get it, but I don't want Blue Angels
you want military.
myself. I want military.
Yeah.
I love this finish. It's gonna show up. It's gonna be easier to see than the gray, but it's still got the military livery. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, what I'm getting at is, compared to some other competitive offerings, they just are quite a lot better than some of the other offerings, okay? But they still have room for improvement, and all of them do, okay? No matter how good they are. And the other thing too is sometimes when these guys are making and designing a plane like this, they have trade-offs. The trade-offs are, where exactly are you going to retract the retracts in this? Do you want to put it in the air duct right there?
Yeah.
Okay, that's not gonna work. Are you gonna put it inboard here? Well, there's nothing there, guys. Look in there, there's nothing there.
There's nothing there.
So if you put the landing gear here, what are they gonna go in like that? There's
then you're
nothing
gonna have
there.
something that's not scale for
And
gear.
the nose gear, get this.
Where
are you gonna put it? Let's show them the inside where the nose gear would be.
Yeah.
Where's the nose gear gonna go?
I think that's a
Guys, there is nowhere for the retract mechanism. And so I understand, especially if you wanna have this stout, beautiful looking thing. So in real life, you would have like all this body under there, which also speaks to the fact that the pilot is the wrong size. In real life, I believe the F-18, this goes forward and it would go in front of like right here, okay?
Oh.
This is solid there. So like you might be able to get away with the nose gear, but you're gonna have to design a very complex landing gear assembly that probably cost as much as the entire plane.
Right.
Okay. So remember the mold, huge expense. The electronics are expensive, but they're not that expensive. The mold costs the most for this plane, probably. Second thing would be landing gear, because it's married to this airframe. So if they're gonna make a small economy version, they don't want to sell this for $1,000 because nobody's gonna buy it.
Right. You're trying to hit a certain price point in a certain size class.
So now that we've talked about all the excuses the manufacturer would probably tell us to use, except they'd be like, don't talk about that. I don't care. We're talking about it because that's what we do on Brian Phillips RC. We talk about the things that you guys want to know and what you care about. Also, the other thing I noticed is we do have to glue.
Yes.
If you want some of the ordnance installed, you have to glue. It just so happens that we're gluing something that should not be glued.
Right.
So the competitive offering that we weren't talking about, that could be right here, had a pitot tube or whatever it is on the wing.
Yep.
And it was magnetically attached. Of all the ordnance here, and my only complaint with this, because this ordnance is gorgeous. It is very nice. It is very detailed. It's got little scale lines on both sides.
Yep.
And it also goes on and off really good. Okay, so zero complaints in that arena until you get to the inboard missiles that go on the fuse. If you're gonna belly land this, these are gonna break off, okay? So you have to make that decision. I don't like being put in a position where I have to decide between having the cool that I bought and paid for and having to give up because there's no other way to attach it.
Right.
Like, what the heck? And by the way, my missile rail, this is designed wrong.
Out of square or something.
Look, mine is twisted too much. Look, that's twisted right, okay? So look, they gave me 2 of the left missile. This one is wrong, see? Yeah, I just noticed that. Let's show the people at home. Again, it's probably not a big deal because I'm gonna have to omit this anyway, but check this out. When you see this mounted, see how these are at an angle like this? These should have been mounted on an angle like that. So in order to make this work here, that's gonna dive into my airplane. You see this little mark? That's from trying to push that in. You see what I'm going on?
Yep.
So this would need to be ripped off, moved to this position and stuck back on. Same thing here. This ripped off, moved around, and stuck down, then this would go in here. So FMS screwed up on this one in my plane. Okay, you guys see what I'm talking about? They're not ambidextrous. These have to be a left-right. How do you know they're left-right? Because the paint on this is jigged and painted correctly. This is jigged and painted incorrectly. This would have actually been a left missile, okay? So you can see that fits there, goes on, and then look at the clearance. If this wasn't already totally clear, which I hope I'm making this totally clear, it would go here. In real life, that fin would tuck in here, or it'd actually be on a rail system anyway that ejects and shoots it, okay? So anyway, those are our findings real quick. You know, not uncommon findings like camera crew and I were talking about earlier on this size class. You're just gonna have some trade-offs, especially if you go between belly landing and wheels up, wheels down, takeoff and landings. Because the truth is, I love wheels up, wheels down. I hate compromise. Tell them all about it.
Yes, all about it.
Yes. So if you guys are wanting to buy this thing and you want to support Brian Phillips RC, the best thing you can do, look at the links in the video description below. When you follow the links and you buy it, you'll help support us with small commissions from the manufacturers we work with. You don't have to spend money then, and it's really nice. If you're wanting to support us in other ways, we have Patreon, PayPal. Patreon, of course, is just monthly support, so you can be a regular member. And then they have that on YouTube called YouTube Members as well. Both are much appreciated. And then we have YouTube Super Thanks. Thanks. Every once in a while, somebody throws us 10, 20 bucks, something like that. It's really appreciated. Thank you. It warms our hearts. And then PayPal if you don't like any of those 3 options. But we still firmly believe, and way over here on this better option, is to buy amazing products like this with every ugly wart and flaw that we point out. Okay? The reason we point them out is because China is always going to tell you it's high fidelity. Whatever that means.
It's pretty sweet looking.
It is it looks amazing.
Yeah.
So I got to say, but looks can and have been very deceiving.
We'll see.
35. Oh, sorry, got something stuck in my throat there.
Okay.
So our next move is we have to build this thing. So if you're brand new to Brian Phillips RC, we unbox them, then we build them, then we do radio setup. Sometimes we start talking about radio setup. Now we're going to talk about that right now. If you want to just stay right there for a second. I'm going to grab what I believe we need in this plane. I think we need a 630 would be ideal. You'll notice that we're not playing with a plane that's gonna give us a reflex, which is good. I actually far prefer that because I'd rather do AS3X and safe. Plus then that lowers the cost of the plane so I can afford to put the money back into something like this. Okay, so this is relatively inexpensive. It's not cheap. You can get cheaper, okay? But this is a good starting point. You're gonna be $5 more with the antenna. Also, I like end pins in this application because let's be honest, this is a smaller plane. You're not gonna get out so far. And if you do, you're gonna be losing it anyway. So with the antenna, probably a little bit overkill. Plus you got that top pin style. The end pins are gonna be nice on this plane because my guess is we're gonna be cramming a battery in here, right there. And we are not gonna reach past the battery.
No.
So this is gonna be one of those where we just get in here and finger depth.
Yep.
Right there.
Probably.
And that's where it's gonna be. And that's the way it's gonna be. Because I don't know how else you're gonna do it. Now, the other thing too, you could do potentially is you could actually take the AR631, you could do the same thing, tuck it in there and then have the antenna come out. You could, you know, pierce into the side or the side and then put your 28 millimeters of active antenna, which is this portion here. That's kind of like that clear plastic, see? That could go into the foam to protect it when you're loading and unloading batteries. I'm gonna tell you this, we have learned this from great experience, like hundreds and hundreds of models, okay? We're gonna use the NX10 until we run out of memory, then we're gonna go back to the NX8. I'll tell you a little bit more about that. If it's hard to load a battery in a plane, you're gonna be less likely to play with it.
Yep. Just throw those anywhere over there.
And also I did update my firmware on this one to version 3.1.3. If you're watching this a couple of years, it's probably higher than that. But remember, AS3X Plus comes from the variety of 3.XX, okay?
Yep.
If you're in 2.XX, you need to update to get AS3X Plus, which will open you up to the capability of the additional channels between these two. You can have your firmware updated on this and talk to an old one, but you're not gonna have AS3X Plus. If you have your firmware updated on the 10 or the 8, you'd have 20 channels. If you're in the older firmware, you just have 10 or 8 respectively. Or an NX6 brings you 14 channels. NX7E, the one that looks like the cow, that one goes up to 14 channels, okay? So if you're on the cheap, you're trying to get your feet wet, don't start here. This would be a terrible place to start. Even though we'll show you how to put safe on it, AS3X, all that stuff. So you'll have auto leveling when you let go of the sticks on the transmitter. Yeah, that's not normal. It is actually an active feature. And we'll show you how to put stabilization on it. For now, we're gonna plan on using the 630. 630, of course, is gonna be the best option, I believe, in this plane. If you've got the money for it and you wanna go balls deep on this thing and you wanna have telemetry, so you have pack voltage telemetry, you could go to the AR637T. This is considerably more expensive than the 630, but that also gets you end pins, so you could do a similar install. You'll see that this cabinet is just slightly longer by a factor of a couple of millimeters. And in terms of extra weight, you're talking a couple of grams. If you get the new packaging, this is the other way around in the package. Not that it matters. We happen to have new and old. This one was older, so I updated the firmware.
And the new ones will say AR630 Plus.
Yep.
So if it comes with the Plus, you don't have to do any.
Or 637 Plus.
Or 637T Plus.
Yep. And okay, so now let's talk about channels, because everybody is thinking, what about flaps, Brian? Yeah, it's a good question. Don't know yet. Depends on how they wide the cables in. Let's look at that real quick. Okay, why are we doing this before it's built? Because it's easier to hold this thing and manipulate it. Okay, so I can already tell we have a split. The ailerons are probably here, so it's good we can get to it. Obviously, we're gonna be tucking it back in here more than likely. I don't like mounting them on this weird angle. And plus you have this little keeper for the canopy. If this is a straight angle that's down the length of the plane, okay, so imagine this is a plane, right? Watch this. As I come down the length of it, you see my pointing? Now I'm pointing at the camera crew because I'm pointing to the tip. This is a sweep, right? There is correction for that in the forward programming that we go through on this, so that it will not have correction for the yaw, but it will have correction for roll and pitch, right? Well, the problem is there's no correction for this. You can't correct for that. You can correct for this, and you can correct for this, but you cannot correct for that, because guess what happens? Now you pitch up, guess what? It thinks you're pitching up and turning, because it's gonna see this as a different moment, okay? So you see this, you gotta be lengthwise square. You do not have to be square here on pitch axis. There is correction for that, and there is correction for roll, but not correction for yaw. And yet we do correct for yaw. If you mount your receiver and it's mounted like this, and you mount it like that, it will cause your plane to be wonkadelic. Mark my words. If you mount it like this, it's gonna be wonkadelic. If you mount it like that, you can fix that in the level model and capture attitude step, which we will show you step by step the whole way through, okay? So when you think about where you're gonna mount this, and we talk about this on Brian Phillips RC, some of you guys that have more experience, you don't need this step, we understand. You are fully aware of it. You've gone through the rigors of doing this on your own or with us. Just remember, there's new guys. There's always new guys, okay? So I'm gonna lay this to the side. Okay, so we have this. So if you look at different places you can mount this, you could put it way up here if you really wanted to. That's fine if you want. Guess what? It probably would work fine. In fact, look. Stuff that sucker in there, guess what? Your vent hole's almost completely blocked, okay? Plus, you're so far out in front of the pitch moment. It does not need to be mounted on the center of gravity like yesteryear. But I still firmly believe that these things have a small advantage if they're at the center of the pitch axis and the center of the roll axis. Now, they do not have to be anymore because the way the accelerometers work, it is so much more sophisticated than they were just a few short years ago. But I just want to point that out to you. If you're trying to get your battery back here and you want to fly real super tail heavy, you can potentially do that and make more room for your battery if you do that. Now, we're not going to fly super tail heavy because we're not doing crazy stuff like John does on Two Brothers, okay? We're going to basically fly it with the center of gravity right where it needs to be according to the manufacturer's spec. That doesn't necessarily mean that's where it should be, but that's where we're going to fly it, generically speaking, okay? So if this thing plugs in and then we take and we flip it upside down, then we can just reach in here and just glue it, okay? Now let's say that I'm off on this axis. That's where you got to be careful because there is enough room that this can be tipped left and right. Do you see what I'm talking about? Show them from above. See this? There's enough room that it can be pitched left and right. Not pitched, but rotated. Remember, the only axis that we cannot accommodate for is this axis. If you're there, then I think we can accommodate for that because then this roll axis just becomes the pitch axis. And this pitch axis becomes the roll axis. So you can correct for that. But you can't correct for cattywampus angular. Okay? Because your yaw axis is corrected. You can correct that, but when you mix two of the controls, it's gonna get weird, and I promise you, it will. And this is coming back from yesteryear, way back when I did the Airbus A330. And I had a Lemon RX receiver, and there was no forward programming, and it was super simple. And I had to figure out how to reverse engineer all sorts of crap to make that work, and it worked fine. It worked good. But that was back when I built mounts and all sorts of stupid things. It was such a waste of time. And now we have done so many, we've had so much experience that we've learned what's unnecessary and what is necessary. We're gonna teach you that on Brian Phillips RC. All right, so in order to plug this in, you could start plugging it in now if you wanted. And I just wanna talk about channels though. You can see there's this yellow wire and you're like, what the heck is this yellow wire? Well, first of all, that's throttle. And along with throttle, the yellow wire goes back. That is a signal wire for thrust reverse, okay? Now the good news is, if you need to slow this plane down in a hurry, you can turn the motor backward and it will blow air instead of sucking air. And so sucking and blowing in combination is always good, right? So if you're going really fast, you want to slow down, just keep in mind that fan is designed to blow air, not suck air. And because it is going to be operating backward, there's two things that you have to balance in your equation, your mental equation. Is it going to be enough to matter to screw with? And is it going to be efficient enough? The answer to those two questions is yet to be determined, and we always determine it with you on Brian Phillips RC, okay? Because the truth is, I don't know yet. We'll find out shortly, okay? It's very important for you to make that decision because here's the thing. We have 6 unique channels that are pluggable on this, but this houses 20 actual channels. Now, you don't have to use the other 20 channels, the other 14 above the channels, provided you're using an NX10 or NX8. If you're using the NX7, you would be able to tap into 14 of those available channels, right? So you could do different things, different functions above the pluggable channels, right? And there's also the bind program SRXL2 goes through that top pin or that top series of plugs, right? And you're also silk screened on here S plus and minus, so the signal is this direction, right? The minus is over here, and then the power is in the center, okay? So if you have to use the old style bind, you can use a bind plug, but this has a push button that you can push, and that'll put it in bind mode, okay? When that first came out, I poo-pooed it big time. I'm like, what if you hit it while you're flying? Well, those are on certain times it's gonna work during initiation, okay? And I've never had that happen, okay? So that being said, if you look in here, this wire goes back to the ESC, so we have thrust reverse. We are probably gonna try to set up thrust reverse as usual, right?
I think so.
Then we have a rudder up here. The rudder is for the steerable nose gear. Now, here's another thought, just a thought. We don't have a rudder here. We have a rudder there. Guess what happens? When you have a big clunky nose gear, guess what you get from a clunky nose gear? You get a little baby rudder, okay? Now, because this thing is so sophisticated, you got a spring-loaded oleo. That is so dang cool, actually. I gotta say, one of my favorite features on this plane, and we're gonna take it right off. This is gonna be hard to be made into a bigger rudder, but you could still take some clear plastic. Guess where you got clear plastic, folks? Right here. This literal plastic right here. You can cut that up, you can wrap it around that shaft, or you could take out the singular screw and make it go into that screw and just fold it so it's at a 90 and make a little triangle out of it. That's clear, you won't see it, but it'll still help give you some yaw authority. Then guess what? You still have rudder, okay? Not quite as sophisticated or cool as sitting back here and getting them to kick in like this. You can do takeoffs, make it look just like a carrier landing. Not gonna happen on this plane. Also, you'll notice no inboard flaps. Inboard flaps are easier to set up than flaperons, and they're more effective. But because it's easy to split these out, we're gonna consider flaperons on this plane. Why? So that you understand how to do it. It's not that hard to do if you have a wire that you can split and you don't have to like cut ends off and separate and build new servo ends from a Y cable that is like buried, okay? Because we see that a lot, right? Okay, so that being said, we're gonna have channel one's gonna be either ailerons, elevator, throttle, reverse thrust, and rudder. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 5 channels, right? So we have throttle, thrust reverse, elevator, rudder, steerable, elevator, right? Elevator, rudder, ailerons. Or aileron 1, aileron 2 would be 6. Did I say that right?
I don't know, you did it in a weird order.
Well, okay, so throttle,
aileron,
elevator, rudder, which is steerable,
thrust reverse, and then aileron 2
Aileron
if you
2.
split them out.
Okay,
Yes,
fine.
6.
So camera crew has her own unique way of thinking through things. I have my own unique. It doesn't matter what order we go in. It just matters that we get them all, okay? So we have 6 pluggable channels, so that means we can do all the features we want on this plane.
Yep.
I want flaperons because I want flaperons. They probably are not necessary, and we probably won't use them, to be honest, much. Because here's the thing. At the end of the day, this thing's gonna look best, it's gonna function the best as a belly lander. But can you imagine sticking this thing on the ground and scratching it up on your first flight? Ugh. Makes me sick to my stomach just thinking about. That's probably all the sweets. Okay, so that being said, we've answered all the questions you had about why we chose the 630, and whoo! I caught it with my toe, so it didn't totally hit the ground. We're gonna put that over here. It's gonna be with the NX10. The NX10 will eventually run out of space because we have like 230, but then evidently this thing's too dumb to realize that we have like 40 or so more, maybe 50 before it even starts counting. So because it's incrementing, it's gonna eventually increment to 250, and then it's gonna X-nay anymore with airwear. Well, we have figured out the flaw or whatever. I don't know, it hasn't crashed yet. So when it does crash, we're gonna switch over to an NX8. Or maybe at the beginning of the year, we're not sure. Either way, so do you wanna build this now?
That would usually be the next step.
Okay, so we're gonna build this now. Guys, we don't mean to bemoan the issue on any of these details, but you gotta remember, if you're brand new to the hobby, there's so many different things you don't know that you don't know to know. We're gonna try to help you know those things, even though you're in a position where you like quite literally don't know to ask. Okay, what do we do at this step?
Well, we probably need the plane stand actually, right?
Nope.
Oh.
Guess again.
Oh, shelf liner?
Shelf liner, baby.
You're just going all out of order today.
I am, shelf liner. Well, listen, this is not about going in order, camera crew. This is about getting it done.
Yeah, but somebody has to put chapters in this thing.
Who's that?
That would be me, thank you very much.
Okay. So what do? We don't like Velcro on our packs. Velcro on packs makes it a million times easier. But these, by the way, these straps are freaking huge. Good Lord.
That is
I mean, I'm glad they're nice straps, but give me a break.
kind of tight.
That's just, okay, so I'm gonna undo this here. Do you remember how I whacked my finger on the island last night?
I do.
It hurt.
Sorry.
It still hurts. I'm serious. Hope I didn't break it.
That would not be good.
Okay, so you see this, guys? Look. That gets laid down. This is shelf liner. So if you don't know what shelf liner is, it just like goes under your stuff and shelves and stops it from sliding.
Unless somebody stole all
Like
yours
that.
to put it in their planes.
Okay. And yes, you can get this. It's got like dots and it's the same stuff, but I'm just gonna cut this. One suggestion, cut it a little bit oversized so you don't get that sticky stuff on your battery, okay? So you can see that's imperfect, doesn't need to be perfect. And then what we like to do is we do this to shelf liner instead of doing it to the battery. Now you don't have to do it this way. This is just a very, 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 very smart thing. And you should do it, absolutely. Okay. So then this just goes right back where it came from. And to be honest, sometimes we pull out the Velcro and we glue it in, but it depends. The thing that's nice about the Velcro is then like if we find the battery needs to be a little bit further forward, we can use that as a locator too. Okay, so it does work pretty good. And we'll just leave these inside for now. And we'll start the rest of the assembly. We don't need to do much to this plane. We're gonna have to put our control horns on, that's annoying. Mm-hmm. We don't like having to put control
Well,
on.
we just have to put the linkages on. The control horns are already installed, right?
Yeah, you're right. I apologize.
So that'll
that
be a
is
little bit
true.
better.
I misspoke. Okay, so also this canopy is, wow, that's so cool. Look at this.
They have like tons of little, that's supposed to be the high fidelity part.
What does
Like,
it say?
Warning, pyrotechnics installed under structure, do not cut. Okie dokie.
So you mean for like an ejection seat?
I think that's what they meant.
And by the way, I gotta say, this assembly works really good because this has enough strength to it, unlike our competitive offering that we were talking about, not talking about. Mm-hmm. That one has a flimsy canopy. It just makes it really kind of not fun to take it on and off. Okay, rod would go in here, but we're not gonna do that next. Do we have to glue these in?
We need to glue the rudders.
We have to glue the vertical stabilizers and the elevators.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do that next. So we'll just dry fit them, make sure they go in. Beautiful fit, absolutely easy. No, I do not scrape off the paint. If you decide to scrape off the paint, I don't mean to poo-poo anybody else's decision to do so, but I'm gonna tell you in my personal experience, it is a waste of time, okay? You can do it if you want. You can feel like you need to all you want. I've done it for hundreds and hundreds of planes, but admittedly, you probably fly your planes more than I do, okay? That's the truth. I have crashed planes. I have had them come out and rip the paint out. I call that a get out of jail free card. Okay, so now, by the way, when you're ordering this plane, don't forget to get your FMS China glue. It comes in a bottle just like this, looks totally beat up. Just kidding, it doesn't. We've used this a lot. It is one of my favorite glues. It's slightly better than the Horizon offering, but just keep in mind, since you're gonna be buying a Horizon product, meaning the receiver, you can also look at foam to foam when you're there, just depending on which side you want to do it. Maybe this is on sale there, this is on sale there. I don't care how you get it, just get it. And get it while it's hot, okay? This stuff is a little bit smaller package, a little bit cheaper. This is a little bigger package. It's a little bit more expensive. They're about the same price, like 10 bucks, 11 bucks. The prices do change from time to time. This is like 6 or 7 bucks. It's a little bit less though. This stuff, I like it better. It's more sticky and you still have to pierce the opening to open it. This one here, over time, it builds up and then this doesn't like to close, but they're both aluminized tubes. They both eventually get small hairline cracks in the tube. This is a thinner tube, this is the thicker tube. This seems to have warning labels. It's probably made legally. This is probably made in China by some sweatshop. I don't know, whatever, it doesn't matter. I don't know, so I don't care. But if I did, then maybe I would. FMS China glue, get it, okay? Pull it out, it's contact cement is what it is, folks. Contact cement, and yeah, it does get messy if you're not careful, but it works. And the thing I love about this is that it's really tacky almost immediately, whereas the foam to foam, when you tack it up, sometimes it gets a skin on it, and I don't like that, okay? Dollars to donuts, if I had to pick, I would pick this, okay? Obviously, we worked with Horizon 2, and you know, for us, it's probably better if you get that, okay? Not that it matters. I would not make decisions on what's better for us. Now, you'll notice I just put that on there, and you're like, Brian, don't put it on there. Good point, put it on there. Why there and not the top and not the bottom? I'm gonna just show you. I'll do one the wrong way, okay? Now, why do you not wanna put it there, camera crew?
Because you don't want it to all splooge out the end.
That's exactly right. So I'm gonna take the other one, and I'm gonna take the vast majority of this off by running along the surface and pulling it to the edge, okay? See what I just did there? And could you explain more about how it's coming out?
Well, if you get the sticky stuff and it comes out of the hole when you slide it in.
See that, guys? It doesn't need to cook off as long. Does that smell?
No, I don't think so.
I can smell something.
Oh, a little bit.
Okay.
No,
Okay, so this end, that's okay to put it on this end. I'm gonna lay this so the vast majority of the weight is on the counter.
Okay.
It's fine. Remember, this is not magnetically attached nose cone, so you can pivot on there, okay? Now I'm gonna take, and I'm gonna do it right. So I'm gonna just put a really pretty liberal sized dollop on there, okay? I'm gonna pull that hair, stringy hair off. I'm gonna get it off the servo for sure. Then I'm gonna go in here and I'm gonna work it into the pocket, all over the pocket. Okay, I'm gonna especially be on this side, right? Guys, pay attention, Megan. See this? Right there, right there. There's a gap here, there's an air gap right there. That's where the wire would pass through. Okay, now that I'm done spreading it, I'm gonna take and clean side. I'm gonna roll this excess off. Now, if you get a ton of excess on there, here's a trick. See how I got excess on there? If you do it quick enough, many times you can just spin this off with your Q-tip. Okay, Q-tips are nice. You wanna always, when in your building supplies, you always wanna keep Q-tips, toothpicks, and what's the other stupid thing we use all the time?
Skewers.
Skewers. Do not let this set up much, okay? That's probably as much as you're gonna get away with. And then you're gonna have a hard time cramming this in the hole. All right, I'm gonna cram it in the hole right now on camera. You ready? Cram it. Look how sticky that is, guys. Look at that. I can barely push it in, okay? Now, this is gonna poop out, and that's okay, and we'll live with it, okay? Okay? Money where the mouth is. See? That is in there. I would fly this plane in 5 minutes. I'd be totally comfortable, okay? Now, listen, because we put less on this side, it's only on the inside. We're gonna have less likelihood that it's gonna push out around the hole, okay? So what I'm gonna do on this side is super easy, same thing. And we show you this stuff because we want you to know how to do it, and not just because, you know, it's really hard. Some of the steps we do are really easy. So you see that little dollop? I just ran that down in there and just kind of let it like snot its way up. And you might want to wipe it on the bottom because you won't notice it as much, okay? And then I'm going to use the same Q-tip that I started with, okay? And then I'm just spreading it mostly on the surface, and then I'm working it into the corners, up the edges. And by the way, you're probably thinking, well, how are you supposed to service that servo if you need to service it? Good question. You'll have to pull this out. How do you pull it out when it's glued in, camera crew?
Kicker.
Yep. What, you kicker? That's violent. See, I can't do that, but you can. So I'm gonna show you what she's talking about. I'm not gonna do it because I don't wanna break down the glue bond, but I'm gonna show you. This is accelerant, okay, or accelerator. It would be used for a product like CA. You could use CA to put this together if you wanted, but I would use foam safe. I don't use CA on these planes like almost ever because I don't like the fact that it's a brittle connection, and I like the way China glue works better. This Instaset, this is a Bob Smith Industries product. There's other types of CA kicker. You can use whatever. It will break down that glue. So you can literally take, I don't even spray it. I just use this like little glob of CA, and then I just like drip that. You see that? Go up close, watch. It'll wick into a joint. And I'll just put like 5 or 6 drips on here. Then I'll flip the plane upside down, 5 or 6 strips right along here. It'll wick in there. And guess what? It'll probably take your paint off too. You remember the paint I told you not to remove?
Yeah.
Okay. Then you get servo out, but guess what? You'll be matching paint. That sucks. It's hard to do. Especially when you got 3 colors. 1, 2, 3 colors. Okay. Now, this is probably good to stick in the hole now. It's cooked off for just a minute. And you see I can barely force it in. Like, I'm pushing hard, guys. If you can't get it, stop as soon as you can, pull back out, reapply a thin layer on top of what you've got, and then slide it in. That will lubricate as you penetrate until you get full penetration. Then it's gonna wanna do this. It's gonna wanna just a little bit. I don't know how to stop that, okay? So this is in, we got full penetration into the moist hole.
You're not done with your glue? Or are you not doing the rudders?
I'm just laying this down for now.
Okay.
So then I'm gonna take a clean Q-tip, okay? Now watch this. Watch this. I'm gonna try to get out of my own light. See this? Clean. Watch this. Boom. See how it's curling up on there? Guess what? Look at that. See that? Look. Walking it back and forth, just pulls it right out, guys. It will look literally perfect. Every once in a while when I do this, it pulls paint, okay? If you do this, you may pull paint on your plane. Same thing here. Look at that big glob right there. Pulling it, pulling it, pulling it, pulling it, pulling it. I'm gonna go to the clean one. Brand new clean one. Look at this. It's pulling it right off the surface. This is why I love this stuff. Now, if it were CA, that's not coming off, so I gotta go back to this one. It's got some tackiness to it. There it goes. Pulled it right out. See this? And you just work that into the corner until it's gone. And yes, I am extremely picky when I build my planes. You guys may not be. Maybe you're more picky. I want them to look perfect. They don't always look perfect. It makes me wildly insanely upset when that happens. Brand new plane, I want it to be brand new until I screw it up. So when I go like this and I go like whoosh, into the camera and we glare at each other for a few seconds, then I get over it. If you've been married, leave it in the comments. Okay. Stick them in the hole. In the hole, look at this. Look at this. Yes, they wiggle lots. They want to wiggle lots after I stick in the hole this sticky stuff. Why are you looking at me like I'm a crazy person? Brian Phillips RC, we do long format content here because shorts are for people that are pooping.
Are you assuming something about their bathroom habits?
I'm not assuming nothing. I'm a human. Okay, so you see how I just ran along the seam? And we do shorts too, guys. Shorts are highlights on Brian Phillips RC, highlights of Brian Phillips RC. Now you're gonna notice that there are 2 surfaces. Let's see where the surfaces touch. Yep, boom, they touch here and then a little bit there. It's gonna be really hard to calculate exactly where. So I'm gonna suggest you do that face and then you come over here and you go this face and then you just, this might have a small gap. So I'm gonna go a little bit sparing. And then same thing here, I'm gonna just do the bottom part heavy and a little bit of that front lip. Just a hair here. Trust me, you guys want that there, okay? And this is now glued to my finger. I have to go to the hospital. Just kidding. That's why I like China glue. China, okay? If you did that with CA, you would be fighting it, okay? So now I'm just spreading this along, slather it along, maybe wrap the edge just a hair, so that as you force it tight into the hole, the moist hole. I just figured I'd add that moist in there because people always love that word.
Yeah.
Tack it up a little bit, or don't, okay? Either way is fine. So now watch this. Remember, we gotta spread that out. So I'm gonna lay this so that it just hangs off the counter and precariously scares my wife into thinking she can have a big slobber of sticky stuff all over her floor.
Yeah.
How do you feel about slobbers of sticky stuff all over your floor?
Not my favorite.
No, it isn't.
It's not.
Sorry. I enjoy it. Okay. Sticky, 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 ew. Don't wait for it to set up. Stick it. That rudder surface does not touch, guys. Okay? See here?
Yep.
Here? Does not touch. See?
It does now.
It does now.
I mean, it does a little bit.
Look.
But not much.
Oh, give it. Can we mic that?
No, ew. No one wants to hear that.
Yeah, they do.
Get glue on your shirt.
Listen. Okay, all right. So it's setting up on me, okay? So now I'm pressing in and down. Now, you'll notice I'm not pressing on this surface. I'm controlling here with my pointer, and I'm pressing with the pad of my hand here. Look at this, pressing in and down. Because otherwise you will dent the heck out of your vertical stab, and it will look like turds that are blue and black and white with this weird...
Again, with the assumption of bathroom habits.
So, well, yeah, that is true. I guess I don't know what your diet is. If you're eating airplanes, it's going to look just like this. All right, so folks, listen. Here on Brian Phillips RC, we take RC seriously.
Obviously.
That's why we talk about bathroom habits. But the truth is, whatever it takes to communicate complex ideas in very, very succinct messaging.
Succinct? You might need to look that word up later.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. All right, so now that that's in there, I'm gonna slather it, and then work the creamy, moist hole and spread this around. I think we disappointed some people on the fun stick.
We did.
Sorry, so we have to make up for it in this video.
Clay, just watch this video instead.
You can't make up for a fun stick on this video. Okay, so I'm just using that sack to hold my sticky end.
Now that bag that we were gonna keep forever is sticky.
That's all right. So slather it on thick there, thick there, thick there. And you guys can see what I'm talking about, thick. Like I make it pop out like that a little bit. And then if you do it wrong, you'll get it on the finished edge there, right, like I did there. Mm-hmm. Don't do it wrong, do it right, and it will look better. Did I cover my bases there?
Yeah.
All right, so now I'm gonna take the dirty tip, and I'm gonna take this less dirty tip, and I'm gonna walk some of that wet stuff off. Okay, it will, believe it or not, it will come off of there. Either way, but I just like to start from the cleanest slate possible, and then I'm gonna work onto the surface of the edges. Okay, and I'm just gonna spread it a little bit. You're never gonna get perfect, and if you use enough glue to cover every little square millimeter of this, you're probably gonna have way too much glue. But just remember, you remember how I said there was play? You don't want play on the surface. You want this to be fixed. Did I spread this already? Yes, I did. Okay, so now I'm gonna stick that to my China glue. If you let this cook off for like 5 minutes, you won't be able to cram this in the hole without basically crumpling this, okay? This has got some stiffness to it, but it's not like infinitely strong, okay? The other thing you can do is, like I said, if you let this sit for too long and it starts getting too sticky and you can't slide it in, you gotta stop, pull back. You'll probably take a little bit of this paint with you, reapply all the way across the surface of any touching, okay? I'm gonna stick this in. Look at this, guys, look at this. See what I'm talking about? You could stop right there and it would sit there, right? You gotta force it in the hole. Okay, so it's all the way in. Oh man, I got tons on that edge. Show the people.
Oh, that's terrible. What were you thinking?
You know what I like about this plane right now?
What?
It's small.
It's small, yeah.
We are having a space issue right now.
We are.
Okay, watch. I'm gonna come back over here, see if I can grab any of this. Nope, can't get it, okay? I love this nose cone. It makes it easy to pivot the plane. So you see this? I'm gonna just roll up. When you got a lot, you gotta start with basically a fresh virgin roll and then work it, and it will string that stuff right out of the joint. You see it's still a little bit too tacky. See that? Come back, grab it. You can like wait for 10 seconds and it will get stickier than you realize. Okay, see that? There's still a pretty big gap too. I don't like that gap.
Is there a gap like that on the other side?
Yep, yeah. There is. Okay. Well, I gotta say that looks fantastic, okay? Mm-hmm. So I'm good with that. And look at the play. Look at the play. I'm holding it down. No play, no play. Flex, not play. Difference, okay? All right, so now that we have that stuff installed, we can hook up our rudder linkages. Oh, just kidding. Elevator linkages, nah, we're not gonna do that either. Why? Because there's really no reason to have that in until the receiver is mounted, okay? Same is true for the ailerons. We're just gonna get this thing installed, especially if you're setting up flaperons, which we will, okay? So a couple things to think about. We have nut zerts here, okay? You're seeing the part that got pressed in, so that tells you the screw comes from the other side, okay? How do we know that? Because we have experience doing this. That's where the screw is gonna go in. It's also chamfered. Is it called a chamfer?
When it's like recessed like that?
I think that's called a
Right.
chamfer. Then there's these two things that are stuck in here. They're gonna be hard as heck to grab. So I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna grab them. You guys might have a slightly different tool. Everybody's tool is a little bit different. We're gonna grab a couple of forceps, one bent tip, one straight tip. We find ourselves using the bent tips. If you guys ever need supplies like this and you can't find them online, or actually rather, if you can find them online and you still want to support Brian Phillips RC, then find them through our supplies tab, brianphillipsrc.com or bprc.me, enter, or /supplies if you want. But all you have to do is, it says right up at the top, somewhere along here, it'll say supplies. Click on it. Then you'll see all these random supplies, whether it be glue or forceps or stuff like that. We will have either the exact item we use or something similar to it so you don't have to scour the web. Okay, now, there's two wires there. Camera crew, which one's which?
I thought I was going to know.
Don't pull it.
I'm not.
Don't pull it. You wanna know why? Because I don't know how much slack we've got.
How much slack there is?
Okay, one of these is gonna go to the aileron and one of them is gonna go to the light.
Wait, there's no light thingy up here. So
Oh
are
my
they
goodness.
wide together in there somewhere? Did I know something?
They're wide out.
Right.
Almost
So
certainly.
it doesn't matter.
It shouldn't matter because you're gonna carry your signal through both of these. But I don't know that for a fact, and so guess what we get to do?
Servo test.
We're gonna test it. Okay. We're gonna grab just any random battery. The first one I grabbed happened to be a 3S2200, okay, which is not the size we're gonna use in this. This would be a 4S2200. It's probably what we'll use, okay? This one's at storage value, storage charge. Click, go down to servo test. This is the XBC Smart Checker. I sometimes call it a battery tester, but it's actually all of the above. You can test servos. See, it's a minus, plus, S. So this is definitely, minus goes toward my belly, so the brown is minus. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna set this into an oscillation by double clicking. See that oscillation? Pretty cool. Now, when I plug this in, I can demonstrate why it doesn't matter. And you can take my word for it, or you can watch and learn. If you already know this stuff, remember this video is geared toward people that are new in the hobby that need help. And if you're watching Unbox Build Radio setups just to support us, thanks, we appreciate that. Okay, so we have an LED that's red, black, and oh my goodness, there's only two wires. How are we gonna ever figure this out? All you gotta do is plug to the brown and red. So the red goes to the red, the black goes to the brown. It shouldn't matter which one we plug into, and you can see we have an LED that turns on. I'm not gonna totally land it. Also, I wanna point out one other finer detail. If this missile's off, you'll have better visibility of the light, okay? Now, watch this. Oh my goodness, the LED works because this is probably white out. But here's the real tail that's gonna tail the tail. Brown, this is short. Brown toward the camera crew, so I gotta go brown toward the camera crew, okay? So watch this, is it gonna move? Is it gonna move? Is it gonna move? Yes, it is, it's moving. I can hear it, you can't see it because it's not hooked up. Now that doesn't mean that this one's not gonna make it move, but we're gonna find out right now because I wanna know, okay? So now watch this, brown toward the camera crew. Oh my goodness, both of them do the same thing. So that means if we janked on this hard enough, you'd probably find a Y cable. So somewhere, yeah, look, right here, I just got it relaxed out of there. See this?
Yeah.
So there's a Y cable that goes to a Y cable, and then the Y cable goes to a Y cable. So now you know, and you don't have to figure it out on your own. Now, here's the catch. If you want to use a different cable, it would be pretty easy to send a different cable through there, just so you know, okay? Firstly. Secondly, there is nothing wrong with one versus the other. It is literally ambidextrous. Ambidextrous. I never know how to actually say that right. How do you say that?
Ambidextrous.
Why is this not sliding
Yeah,
in
why
there?
not staying in there?
Sometimes these things fight going in a little bit. It's like you gotta kind of walk them at an angle to get the pins to align, and then once they align, then you can snap it in. But don't plan on that retention clip working on a 2-pin. They allow too much play.
Yeah.
But the pin connection is the important part, right? So now that we've got the pin connections, we've got this cable here, this Y cable that comes back. We can also pull extra slack, which is super handy. Why is that handy, camera crew?
Well, then you don't have to try and shove it all into the wing.
Exactly. I mean, how do we feel about shoving it in here on Brian Phillips RC?
Well, and speaking of, we need to not forget the wing spar.
Yeah, we can forget it on the first one.
On the first one, yeah,
but you can't forget on the second one,
Yeah.
okay? But we also don't need to demonstrate this on the second one because we've now learned the lessons that we needed to learn. So ram that through, get it started, but we'll put the balance of it in when we're done, right? So now you see how there's two wires here. The other thing you could do is if you wanted to make an inboard flap, you could take that second wire and make that operate your inboard flap, operate as your inboard flap cable, and then you could seal power by just splicing in the red and the black, okay? See this, watch. Now most of you aren't gonna have to disassemble a plane this size, it's so small, to move this through, you know, to get to your flying destination. In our case, of course, we fly at our own place, okay? Beautiful fitment,
Nice.
Absolutely gorgeous. Now that we know what's going on, I'm gonna go ahead and center the servo, okay? And I'm just gonna unplug this for a moment. In a minute, we'll plug in the other one and center the servo since we got it sitting right here, okay? Now, we can flip this over and we can put screws in, or we can put it on a plane stand at this point and we can hold it up. What do you think,
You
camera
want me to
crew?
grab the plane stand?
Nah, let's just do it without.
Okay.
If you guys are brand new to the RC hobby, you may not have a plane stand, so let's see if we can do this without. And would you just slide that stuff, all of it back, just a little bit? Thank you. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my forceps, I'm gonna grab these two wires, I'm gonna leave the canopy off just so I don't have to fight that again, okay? And there's just a little bit of glue that was holding mine in, just barely any, a little bit of jigging with the tape didn't clear the hole. So now I've got this other Y cable here, and I know where it's gonna come from now. Okay. Okay, so now that's pulled out, see? Beautiful. Now I'm gonna pull this through and just work it. Okay, so now that I've worked it, I can actually feel the glue and the oils and stuff, which is kind of just China glue-esque.
Paint and stuff.
Yep. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull the excess back in so we don't accidentally disconnect anything, and I wanna have this disconnect only if I want it to be disconnected, okay? But now we're in control of the outcome. That's the important part. So because all we need to do is center the servo, I'm still gonna go ahead and plug in the power. Negative is toward my belly. Okay, so I've got this on, and I'm gonna go ahead and double click to set it to a movement. All right, so now that that's done, I can slide this on. And you're probably thinking to yourself, don't forget the screws, Brian, don't forget the, I am thinking about that. That would be a bad thing to do, forgetting the screws right now. Okay, so get that started. Then we'll come back, either one, doesn't really matter. I'm gonna go ahead and choose the one that has the paint on it, just in case that causes a conflict for us. The brown is down, the negative is down. See, I always call it out. Plus this just got like a nasty wrinkle in it, but it's not cut. This will be our red light. Okay, ooh, bright, very good.
Nice.
Same thing, I have to kind of fight this, give it a little up, down movement, left, right movement, and there it goes. It finally penetrates. And just make sure you get full purchase so you can take advantage of that half grab from the clip, okay? This is not gonna seal up, so it's not gonna be quite as secured as the actual servo connection, but it's also less critical. Brown is down, I'm gonna make brown down, and then I'm gonna go ahead and do this. Remember, cable management is of the essence at the step, because once you stick it in the hole, it's gonna be inaccessible, okay? So now I can go back to the center, and then I can disconnect, thusly leaving them unpowered and wherever they sit, which should be now centered, okay? So now I can grab my Y cable for this and pull it as I guide the wing through. Which one is it? Is it this one? I thought it was this one. Nope, it's the other one. You guys see what I'm fighting? Mm-hmm. Oh, here it is. It's right here. Gotta be this one. Yep, that's it. I was gonna say, how is the one so much longer? So now, when we pull this through, folks, all we got to do is basically guide them in, but we don't want to put so much pressure on the plugs that we accidentally unplug them. So be super duper careful as you go. Remember, you can kind of tell how much pressure it took to put them in, so you know about how much pressure it's going to take them out. But do not let that red and black cable float. Control it, point it so that it goes in the hole, and then as you walk closer, you can get the last little bit of pull into the opening. And if you can't get it, you can take your forceps, which are really nice to have. Very handy tool. Get in there, grab it carefully, and slide it in. Now remember, I don't clip these things when I'm just moving around wires. I'm very gentle. See, watch, gentle. You could hurt yourself easily with these if you were to do that. You see how hard I can bite? Like, you could make it really painful. Well, you don't want to rip the cables and short them out prematurely. Okay, so now I'm gonna grab both, just give them one last little squeeze, and then I'm gonna take the balance of it by pulling, okay? There they go, get in the opening, good. So now the last little bit I should be able to get by just rocking the wing, and you see that's going into a cavity, go right above, show them. So it is not like really a no man's land in there. You have to be careful that you actually get it all the way in, okay? Now also, while we're here looking at this, these are ambidextrous, they go up or down, okay? So you can put it on the left can go on the right can go on the left, it doesn't matter, okay? This will also help protect your wingtip right here, which is kind of nice, and same thing with the missile rails. That being said, the F-18 has narrow enough, gear that this does like to kind of tip like this when you're going down the runway if you make a sharp jank. The other thing too that I just thought of, we have a separate nose gear on this. We can set up nose gear stabilization, AS3X Plus style, because it's on a separate channel. Because they're on a rudder, so the rudder is what it is. The only concern is, I don't know if I can do that on the rudder channel itself. I'll have to disassociate the rudder. That becomes an extra rudder. Right. But then that also disallows the rudder from operation whilst it's up. Well, guess what? We don't ever actually run the rudder. We don't ever run the retracts. There is no retract. Right. But you can use one of the additional channels up above to simulate the operation of a retract, but then you could lock it on all the time, I think. But we might need to look into that, because ordinarily you'd have retracts that would come out, then it would snap to life and do its stabilization at a greater factor than rudder, okay? In this case, we don't ever actually deploy the landing gear, which is what initiates the sequence to start that stabilizer. So we have no reason to worry about it. We just turn the gains up higher, period. Yeah. So we don't need that. Okay. That's what I was just function is unnecessary. But that made sense. We could just turn the gains up more on the yaw axis, given the fact that it isn't really a rudder. Right. Also, we have hand launch assist on AS3X Plus. Hand launch assist, when I take this plane and I go and I get ready to launch it, which by the way, it's pretty wide grip, but I can do it. You're gonna throw like this, it's gonna automatically put in some vertical for a few seconds, and it tells by the throwing effect, by the gyro. It knows that you're throwing it, and also the full throttle, and then that throwing, that geometry will automatically take it up for you, which is really nice, actually. I usually launch in safe, by the way, when I'm hand launching planes like this, because there's I set up safe, I might as well take advantage of it. All right, so that build is basically done. We need to put screws in the wings. I told the people that was gonna happen. I was watching. Okay, also, I just wanna show you this right now. Because I know what I'm doing now, and we know what we're doing now, I'm gonna cut this zip tie, right? Yeah. Because we need to eliminate these Y cables. So when you get in here, guys, be careful. If you have like a blunt tipped side cutter like this, make sure you're between conductors so you don't accidentally cut the conductor. It is quite easy to do. And so just be super mindful that if you penetrate too deep, you might cut a wire. Now you can see we didn't, which is good. It's hard to do on some of these smaller side cutters, or bigger side cutters on a small zip tie. I have sharper ones that are smaller. But now look at this. Now we've got a left wing and a right wing that are gonna be separated so we can set up our flaperons. Super easy. Okay, folks, and you're like, what are flaperons? You're probably thinking if you're brand new to the hobby. Flaperons are ailerons. Okay, so the ailerons, one goes up, one goes down. That would roll the plane this way, and this would roll the plane back. Well, when they're flaperons, flaps go down. They're usually inboard, and they would both go down together. They change the geometry of the way the plane points. They introduce more drag, and they create a little bit more lift. Drag and lift come in tandem on most airplane applications, you know. So drag, and that also points the nose down, and also sometimes makes the plane balloon if they're inboard. If you have an outboard aileron, that's a flaperon, they're gonna go down together, and they're gonna continue to actuate as flaps, but then returning to their downward cant together. That's why you need two channels, because if you have one channel controlling left and right together, they're always going to operate opposite each other because they're mechanically mounted opposite one another, okay? If you make this channel 1 and channel 2, or whatever channel, channel 2, channel 7, doesn't matter, just separate channels, then you can say both of you go down. Or spoilerons go up and then continue to actuate as flaps and then return to their actuated position with that cant upward, thus acting as a spoiler, okay? Spoiler spoils lift. That can also increase drag. It can also reduce drag depending on where it's put on the wing. So if you have an airfoil that's very thick and then you go up like this, you can actually reduce the drag and you can reduce the lift. You bleed off lift. You separate the airflow that would normally suck the wing up by doing that, okay? So you retard the lift. I wanted to work that in too. We were talking about that the other day with the kids. Okay, good. So everybody, Brian Phillips RC here. If you want to learn something new, you're in the right place. If you wanted to figure out the quick 5-second solution to something, you're probably pissed off right now. That's okay with us, okay? I'm gonna save this for later.
Don't forget your wing screws.
Wing screws. Camera crew is super worried that my wing is attached.
I don't want to forget.
Canopy me, please. We also have to put the landing gear on, okay? So now, first of all, I gotta say, looks awesome.
Yes.
Super excited, very light, but not weak. I like that, okay? So now, next move, we're gonna be putting wings screws in, okay? So there's a lot of screws, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then there's a set screw here, as well as 4, 5, 6, 7. I bet we got 8. Are you gonna count?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, which is correct. You counted weird again.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yep.
There's
9.
not a screw there. Yeah, so
That's
9 is going to be our spare.
I'm going to keep this sack on for later.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
These are all the same.
Okay, so what size? 2 millimeter,
2
you think?
millimeter hex drive.
So how do we know 2 millimeters?
Because we've done this once before. I mean, I don't know.
1,000 times?
Yeah. 1,000 times, yes.
2 millimeters hex drive, the way it should be. Slide that baby onto your tip. See, this has a gap. If you go at a slight angle, it'll pull it right in. Unless it's a dyno. It's not pulling it right in. What did I do wrong?
There it goes.
There it goes. Okay, so you notice that those are countersunk screws. Now, my suggestion to you is even if you don't put landing gear on, put these on. It'll plug the hole a little bit better, but we are going to go ahead and install those shortly. Just remember, this plane goes together relatively easy, but you gotta glue and you gotta screw. And sometimes you wanna screw before you glue. Just depends on your taste. By the way, look at that. They have access to that for serviceability. What the heck is going on?
Gosh, I'm having focus issues today.
Yeah, we need to figure out what's going on with that. Because hopefully that doesn't happen when we're out filming the flight.
Camera's getting old.
Yeah, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay, so now the other two. So normally if you have a problem getting these started, what I'll do is I'll press the wing in, so I'll go all the way to the opposite ends and push. If that doesn't, it got it. No, it didn't. See how I just pulled this to an angle? Once you get one thread started, you can just go back to vertical. You don't want to cross thread But you gotta remember, you got a plastic and metal nutsert, okay? So you got plastic on plastic. Okay, so you got plastic going into plastic, and they are allowed to wiggle slightly, and that's glued to foam. So you make a bigger bite than if you just, you know, had this like small little retention. They're getting way better, okay? And then that thing is glued to this, and look, we got a big glue drip right there. Gross.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that should not be there, but that's okay. It's all right, we forgive them. Mostly because this plane's gonna get beat to heck anyway when it gets belly landed. And the truth is, I really love the way this plane looks. I am a sucker for F-18s. I think they're sweet. I've always thought that they were sweet planes. And so it just irritates me that I don't have beautiful retracts on here, but like, how the heck are you gonna do it, you know? Look at that, that thing is sweet, and that size is sweet. And we have other planes that are in similar size class that are sport planes, but then this is like a real plane. The problem is, it doesn't have a real rudder. If you don't have primary controls, it just changes. The other thing you could do too, and this is no joke, guys, give me that nose gear. All it is this thing is just a shaft that goes on and bites, boom, with a single grub screw, okay? It would not take a rocket scientist to take and build a little something that sticks into that and becomes a clear rudder right there. Boom, ready to go. And then you actually have a rudder that works, even if you're belly landing, okay? And you could bring this thing in and high alpha it into the ground, and you're ready to rock and roll. And you've got your primary control channel, okay? I don't like having to add that crap. I just want rudders, okay? So give me rudders. Especially when you got this sweet looking landing gear. Dang, that's a gorgeous landing gear. Okay, it's killing me because I don't want them, but I want them. Because I know it's gonna make it fly like crap compared to what it would otherwise.
Yeah, probably.
So now the other thing too is you gotta remember, flying is both a skill and an obsession for me. Okay, I love it. It's something you can't buy. You have to earn it. That's part of the reason why we really enjoy flying. Man, those are kind of weird to figure out, but yeah, got it figured out. So they go in there, feel very solid actually. Okay, so this one is gonna be the blue one over there. This one's the gray one. Can't tell that there's really a forward or backward.
Didn't look like it when
Looks
you
like it
popped
pretty
that
much just
first one in.
goes. Okay, now that will break if you have a rough landing, 100% guaranteed. Now, if you guys have ever flown the F-15, also an E-Flight product or an FMS product, FMS has an offering in a 64 millimeter class, and E-Flight offers the exact same one. Looks a lot like this. The FMS offering is in the Navy livery.
Yeah.
It's great. Okay, both very good planes, exactly the same plane. The only difference is the E-Flight's bind and fly. The FMS is a plug and fly, or plug and play, however you like to call them. PNP seems to be the more popular, plug and play. Chinese like to say play, like the player, like it's a video game. This isn't a play. This is like, you know, we don't play with our toys. We fly them.
Yeah, you're not a player.
We fly our toys.
Yes.
We're not a player. It's not like I'm playing soccer or football. We're in North America. North America. Uh-oh. 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 Woo, that made me nervous. I thought maybe. Oh, and by the way, you guys see this? This penetrates into the, what would be going vertical up into the airframe. Okay. Those landing gear look freaking awesome. This is so irritating to me because I so badly want this thing to be wheels up, wheels down, and yet it's not gonna be. Oh, by the way, if this was an F-18 in full scale, it would have a full functioning tailplane here, okay? So this would be a stabilator, or you could call it a televon, okay?
Oh, yeah.
Now, you could also separate this Y cable and set up a televon setup instead of doing flaperons. With this setup, you could also do televon or tailorons where they act as ailerons and elevators, okay? But if you do that, by the way, oh, springy too. Dang, I love it. But I wanted soft tires still, okay? So if you make this actuate separate from this, so they operate as elevator or ailerons, then you can make your flaps only here, okay? That's one way you can do that. And then you have only one channel here. But my guess is these are not going to operate the same direction. Yep, they are going to operate opposite directions. If you ran them as one servo, they're going to operate like this. Flaps, flaps. So the way you would do that, if you wanted to make these Telerons, okay, then you would take, see this elevator? The Y goes back here to some unknown spot, probably way back here. So you'd have to take this elevator, just so you know how to do it. You would pull back that little label. You would take your scissors or side cutters or whatever, and you would clip off one side of these. Boom, 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 gone. Then you would build another lead on this, and then you would have two independently controlled elevator servos, okay? This would be the right side aileron and elevator, Telebon, or what am I trying to say? Gosh, I feel like I'm saying it wrong. I almost never do it.
Right.
This would be an elevator and an aileron, so it'd be a Taileron.
Then what's in?
But look, it's not a full functioning stabilator is what I'm getting at. So this just has the end, but it is a big plane still, so that's not too bad. So if you could get enough roll out of this to make you happy, then you could set these up, and all you have to do is a servo signal reverser on one of these two now Y cables, one for the light, one for this, and you could actually cut the rest of this down. You could make a huge flap that would operate like a flaperon and an inboard flap, and it would look sick. Just saying. Not saying you should do it, I'm just saying you could hypothetically do it. And the way you would do it is you would take your X-Acto knife and you would cut it very carefully, top and bottom. You would put a big piece of tape probably across this whole surface here. You could even go up here and you could cut the whole surface with one nasty cut. And then this whole thing would move down with the aileron. You would use one servo. You'd put this Y on, one servo signal reverser on one side. That would make these function in the same direction, so you don't waste another pluggable channel. You would still have thrust reverse then, and you could have telebons. Okay? Did I explain that right? So one telebon,
so.
two telebon, 3 flaps, 4 steerable nose gear, 5 throttle, 6 thrust reverse. Just in no particular order. So it can be done. But that's going to require more modifications here and one additional part, which is going to be a servo signal reverser for this. Or you can take out that servo and replace it, which I would never do. Or you can take out the servo, or that, doesn't matter, one of them. You can take it out, open it up, desolder the leads from the motor, resolder them like this, and then take the 3 wires that go to the trim, feedback trim pot, switch any of the 3 wires, desolder and resolder. That makes that a reverse servo. You can do that if you want.
That's super fun. It's my favorite thing to do.
The camera crew came up with this.
They do it all the time.
I'm just telling you how to do it. Now, you guys are probably thinking, good Lord, Brian, what are you even talking about?
Yes.
Anybody who's done models for a while will understand everything I just said. But why are you watching this Unbox build
I
video?
understood everything you just said.
Huh?
I said I understood everything
That's
you just
disgusting.
said. It is. It's terrible. I'm embarrassed.
Okay, so the cool thing, I like flexibility, okay? It is something I really like. I need a different size.
1.5.
1.5, yeah.
I'm always a 1.5.
The grub screw is smaller, guys, so you need a 1.5 millimeter drive, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put this on now. So this just drops in to this pocket, and then you can just rotate it in. 1.5 millimeter, grab the wrong one. See, 1.5 millimeters. You're gonna stick this in, back it off, let it go down, kind of rock it in till it's all the way down to where you feel comfortable. And then we're gonna bite this. Now this we haven't centered, so let's just assume it's centered because it did look centered. And by the way, one of the most wonkiest, geez.
That does not seem like it's on there.
Yeah, it's not.
Oh, there is a little flat. Hold on.
Hold on.
You gotta go way further on.
You know what? I'm undoing this screw, but look how much penetration. You know what we gotta do? We gotta actually push that down. Look, I bet we gotta push it down.
Oh. That.
I bet we gotta push that down. No, we can't.
So you just have to stick it in further.
I need your help.
I'm filming.
We don't usually do that. Unscrew. Go all the way out and then one turn back. Under my Sidewinder.
I was gonna say.
I'm just gonna stick this on the tip and then lay that down like that. And then I'm gonna see if I can even get enough penetration. I do not know that I can make that. I'm all the way in there, hon.
No, you're not.
I am stuck to the bottom. I'm dead serious. That is all the way down.
Okay, well, I don't think that's still in, but I guess try it again.
No, I'm saying I don't think it's gonna reach.
Yeah, because it should be hitting the metal.
It's biting.
Is it? No.
It's biting the end of the hole. Folks, I don't know what to do here. Okay, hold on.
No, wait, what?
Did you just pull that up?
Yeah.
How did you do that? Okay, here's the trick. Trick of the day, guys. Look, back it off. Hold this aside. Watch this, watch this, watch this. Gravity needs to be your friend on this. I looked from above. I swear I did. See, look. Now that I'm up here, I'm gonna press this down. There it goes. It goes in a little bit. I'm pressing it down now.
Yeah.
Okay? So now that I've pressed down, I can actually just hold the plane down. And then I'm gonna stick this in from the side. Guys, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong side, but you get the idea. I'm just sticking I'm sticking a grub screw in, for God's sake. It's not like it's hard to do. Oh, yeah, buddy. Man, that looks so good. Ooh, man, I hate fixed gear. It's so beautiful. So that is one thing. Okay, so now, real quick, like we haven't been on a rabbit trail.
Yeah.
Look at that chick. Look at this.
That's no rabbit.
See that? Oh, yes. The landing gear on the F7F are so dang gorgeous. Look at that assembly. All of them are spring-loaded, and they are just fantastic looking. Give them a close-up next to this.
There's too much crap in
No, there's not. Yes, just show them. Look at that. Amazing. That's all metal next to this beautiful Bell 206 and this Bell 206. And okay, I'm going to get back to what
Okay, you have like 30 minutes.
The reason I was saying that it's so awesome is that if you just take a look in here, first of all, I got to say, that build was not very hard. No. It makes me happy when they're not hard like that, okay? That makes me happy, okay? Secondly, I gotta say, the rudder lead is now the delimitation. It's the shortest lead.
Yeah.
So do you think we're gonna be able to reach with our ESC lead?
I don't know if that's gonna be tough.
Goodness
Why
gracious.
do they do such a ridiculously long?
Yeah, and it's hilarious because sometimes then they barely give us enough to get the job done, okay? So one extra screw in true FMS fashion, we'll put that in the bag so we can build the house out of the screws later. And now at this point, we're ready to start into the next step, which is going to be the radio setup, right? And you're probably thinking, well, are you really ready for radio setup? Yes, we are. Here's why. Because at this point, we gotta start landing wires. So we're probably gonna need China glue. Because I gotta start sticking these things in holes.
My concern before we actually stick it down is to check the CG at some point. Because if we gotta move that battery way back, we might need to know that.
No, because it ain't gonna change nothing. We're gonna still have to stick it back. I don't disagree. But this rudder line is going to be the biggest issue.
Well, I know, but you can extend it if we have to, which would be stupid, but...
What?
You can extend the rudder line if we had to, but that'd be dumb.
All right, hold on. Let's just get it. Okay, so two choices for batteries here, folks. We got 4S 2200. This is a 30C discharge. We got China Hobby lines. And then we also have a 2200 4S. This would be a 50C. Gosh, that one is totally beat to death.
They might call out a 30C though, so we might need
No,
to
they
be
do.
a little
We're
bit.
gonna have to probably go to our new 4S. We have a new 4S Smart Pack.
One's a little.
But what I'm just trying to say is this is the bigger one. So if I stuff that in there, you can see my problem. It's too wide because it's puffed. Is it gonna go this way? By the way, this thing's puffed because I flew way too many helicopters for way too long on it. This China Hobby Lines is also going to be probably a bit too thick.
Too wide.
You could get it in there though. Like, I'm not saying you couldn't. That would actually be a pretty dang good spot for it. It's gonna hold it.
You're way back off the strap, so hopefully we don't need to go
Right, but I'm just showing this so people understand there's some flexibility there.
Okay.
But you're not gonna be taking a lot out, okay? Just be totally clear, guys. You're not gonna be taking that out. Your foam is not coming out of there because that sidewall is like your body of your airplane.
Right.
There's nothing left after that. So my thinking is, I understand your CG concern, but it's not really a concern yet.
Okay.
You know why? Because really, on this particular plane, it's gonna be the right spot because there's only one spot for that battery to go.
Okay.
Don't you think?
I'll take your word for it.
This is educated guessment.
I know, it is. I mean, it always does a little bit, but.
Okay, all right. So in order to do this, we have to set up a profile. Okay, where did the receiver end up? We left it over by the transmitter. So NX10, no, you don't need the 10 channels to do this, but if you get a 10, you're gonna have 20 channels on an NX10 Plus, or you can use an NX8, or you can use an NX7E, whatever meets your fancy. I don't really care what you do as long as you do test it, make sure it works, okay? So this is gonna ultimately receive all the wires, but we have to set up a profile so we know where to stick each of the wires, okay? So in order to do that, we're gonna set up a profile right now. You'll note that we don't have any of the linkages on, so it's gonna be a little bit tricky to set up some of these. And we're also gonna have to refer to the manual to see where to put these in which hole position, okay? So the specifications are here. They suggest medium CA. I would not use CA. Use China glue. This is what we talked about. All right, so. Yeah, they don't say anything about pushing that thing out. All right, so here it is, guys. This is what I wanted to see. So it goes to the, on the elevator, it goes to the next to last hole. On the ailerons, it goes to the, geez, the second hole? Nah, we're not doing that. We're gonna go all the way to the end. I want as much deflection as I can get on this, and then we'll back it off from there, because I'm gonna have flaperons, so I want more movement than they might call for. I can always reduce the amount of output in my stabilizer or stabilized receiver setup, okay? Now they don't even talk about the rudder because we don't do the rudder. The rudder's already mechanically attached by one of those sweep things. It's junk, I hate those things. You guys see what I'm talking about? This thing? I mean, it's a means to an end. I just don't like them. Yeah, you see that plastic thing? I don't like them, but they work. It's okay. You don't always get symmetry, which drives me nuts. It doesn't always go left and right evenly. And they eventually get bent out, and yeah, I'm just not a big fan. But like I said, the landing gear are gonna come off of this after I like Google about how awesome it is, googly eyes about how awesome it is, not Google, like type it in Google. So we've answered our question. So on the elevator, we're gonna be the next to last hole.
Yep, and then ailerons will go to the outside.
We'll go to the outside hole, which means, well, no, that's not true.
Why?
Because if we go to the outside, we're gonna have less output. We go to the inside, yeah, because the inside would actually produce more throw. Yeah, right? No. Yeah, the outside on the servo, hold on, am I thinking?
You have ball links though, so, right?
We have ball links, yeah. So that we don't control. So yeah, we want to go to the outside on the servo. I was thinking for some stupid reason we were talking about the control surface. Guys, I may have confused you badly if you're new to this. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to misspeak. This is on the outside. That means it's going to have a little bit less throw than if you put it to the inside hole, which would give you a little bit more deflection. When you're on the inside hole here on the servo, you have less deflection. And when you go to the outside hole, you'll have the maximum deflection that can be produced by the servo. And that's to say that there may not be enough electrical power in this servo setup to move such a big surface. That's might be why they did. My guess is they did the second hole so it wouldn't roll so fast, because the roll rate's probably insane, okay? So then that speaks back to my theory that some of you might want to do televon configuration. The other thing you can do is you can actually set this up as ailerons here and elevator here, and ailerons here and elevator here. So you do a televon configuration, and then you would just tie these together if you have a less sophisticated plane. And you can actually fly a plane that way, and it does kind of do some fun stuff. Sometimes it's a little wonk though, full disclosure. We used to do foam board planes all the time that way. Don't roll your eyes at me, camera crew.
Roll my eyes.
Okay, I thought I was seeing rolled eyeballs. Thought I was. All right, I'm just put this out of the way for now.
Okay.
All right, so we have to build a profile so that we can then tell where to stick our wires so that we can glue that in, okay? All right, so in order to do this, turn on your transmitter. We're gonna do our standard setup so you guys can copy along. If you don't like the way we set it up and you choose to do it your way, no problem. There's a million different ways to skin a cat. We skin it our way. If you want help though, do it our way and then build on that, okay? All All right, cancel and back takes you to the model list, add new model, create. It hasn't crapped yet. It hasn't blown up. There's no smoke blown yet. So we obviously are not out of model memory yet, but it does take a long time when you get up to this level. By the way, when you only have like 6 or 7 or 10 models, it's way quicker than this, full disclosure, okay?
Or 110 models.
Now, also, the thing that irritates me about 250 model memory, I have like a 1 terabyte, or not a 1 terabyte, I have a what is this? Like,
I don't know, that micro SD card that's in there?
it's like a lot, like 100 gigabytes or something. It's huge. But they claim that you can only use so big a hard drive. Well, whatever. This is only external for backups. I don't even really like use it hardly ever. All right, so model setup. Model type we already set. That was an acro. Model name, this is where we type in the name. See, it says 229, but I guarantee you we're like way over 250. Airware is only supposed to support 250, just so you guys know. All right, so we're gonna type this in now and come right back. All right, so I wanted to put Hornet, but I ran out of characters, so F-18, 64 V2. Okay, so I hit back, aircraft type. This is where you're gonna set your wing type. So flap rounds is what we're gonna do with a normal tail. And you're like, but we don't have a normal tail because there's no rudder. Well, we're still gonna treat it like there's a rudder. We'll still set up stabilization like there's a rudder. It's just, it's gonna only be the steerable nose gear, okay? In the cinema, select an image from the standard file. It's probably gonna be that jet looking plane or the Habu. Let's do the Habu, okay? Then I'm gonna go to flight mode setup. This is where we set up our switch for the flight modes. I'm gonna set up switch D. I'm gonna hit back, then I'm gonna do spoken flight mode. So now you can see it says 1, 2, and 3. That'll show up like about this area here on the screen, but then it's gonna also say it out loud. If you're on an NX70, you won't have this step for the speak part, but you'll still have this step, okay? So I'm gonna highlight the name, highlight cancel, cancel, that clears it. Then I can scroll in the value that I want to put. So I'm going to put AS3X in this first set, but this is just a label, so it's not actually the setting. Okay, so AS3X, artificial 3-axis stabilization or stabilizer. Okay, AS3X, oops. Artificial stabilization 3-axis, there you go. So they're not good at acronyms at...
Apparently not.
Yeah. Okay, then we're gonna scroll all the way down to here and put that as an audio event.
But you can't have A3SX because that sounds weird.
A3SX?
Yeah.
What would people think it says when they read it quick?
I don't know. They can just say it out loud at home.
There you go. So you see save, and then it's down here, AS3X. Then you can set this one. I'm gonna set mine to off, okay? Now you don't have to copy this, but I like to have a setting where I can turn it off, mostly for demonstration purposes. I almost never fly with my stabilizer off, but this is also easier for me to show you guys when we're testing things. And yes, there is an off word in the master list here. Now you can also make a shortcut by making a favorites list, but I don't do that because most of you are not gonna do that either. And to be honest with you, most people are probably not going to do this step. And I know because every time somebody hands me a transmitter, I have to ask them. And then this one was going to be safe. So highlight, cancel, cancel. And then we're going to type the word SAFE for sensor assisted flight envelope. And I used to say aided flight envelope. And then some guy got like really pissed off about it. Which was pretty ridiculous, but even still, he was right. It is sensor-assisted flight envelope. It's not sensor-aided flight envelope. So if you watch one of my old videos, I'll be saying it wrong for a long time. But it's like assisted or aided, whatever. Safe mode. It's like when I talk about anti-crash beacons, people are like, oh, it's anti-collision beacons. And then if I said that, then the next person would tell me I was wrong.
Isn't a crash a collision?
Exactly. So channel assign, we're probably not going to be able to do this all yet, but this is where you can see where things are supposed to be plugged in, but we're going to also see another place. These are all the additional channels that we could use for different things, but we do have to make some assignments. Okay, so let's talk about this for a second. Right knob or rotary knob is what this is. That's on channel 8. So that's like auxiliary something. Since that's the default, I'll leave it there, right? But then eventually I want thrust reverse somewhere. Well, why don't we use this? So I'm going to unconnect that from the right lever and the left lever so I don't accidentally use them. And then I'm going to set that to switch G, okay? So switch G is where I typically make my assignments for thrust reverse. I'll show you how to set that up. But do not set up thrust reverse. Do not plug in thrust reverse if you don't intend to use it, because you can't have it float at 0. Plus 100, minus 100. Minus 100 on spectrum is not the full sweep. All the way at minus 150 would be full, and plus 150 would be full, okay? We want to lock it to minus 100 for forward and plus 100 for reverse. And we'll go through that here in a little bit. Plus, since this is an EDF, we'll set up a pilot fatigue setting. So there's 3 position switch here on G. Forward would be forward thrust. Then we'd have thrust reverse controllable, meaning when I move my stick, it goes to whatever that position is. And then when I do that, it just like simulates having the stick at full out. It's just very weird to put the stick at full out where you're landing, okay? And then get this, you could do controllable. You could have the stick at full out, and then if you had to bail on your landing, just like a real F-18, oh, forward thrust, full throttle, right? But what have we learned about Predator ESCs? Thrust reverse is not very reliable, but we have been very happy with the Super Scorpion.
Yep.
And the Avanti 90. Both are 90s. The Super Scorpion happens to be an 8S plane. Ironically, we're still waiting on an 8S charger, so we can use 8S batteries in it, rather than 2 4S batteries that are in series. That'll be coming soon, by the way. And we're gonna pick back up where we left off, okay? All right, so you can also see, so that's G is what we want, channel 9. I accidentally still had that highlighted, my apologies. So that's gonna be the rotary knob for our main setup here. I wanna disassociate channel 7 from B because we're not gonna use B for channel 7, we're gonna use it for our flap control. For flap mode, we'll do that in a minute. And I can hit back. Oh wait, channel sign has also got A for 5. What is gonna be hooked up to 5? Probably thrust reverse, because G cannot be down here. My apologies. That's gonna end up being switch G. So then down here, I'll inhibit that. Guys, I misspoke, I apologize. We need a pluggable channel for that.
Yep.
This is not an avian. If it's an avian, you can use all these other channels up to, I think you can use 5 through 9 on an avian.
For a thrust reverse,
Yeah, because it's a serial controlled thing, and I'll talk about that more if we have an avian involved. This does not have an avian involved. So channel 5, which is pluggable, is going to be thrust reverse. Channel 6 is already locked in for one of the ailerons. That's the first aileron. That's going to be the second aileron, okay? We aren't going to use channel 7 because it doesn't matter. You're unpluggable past 6, and then it's just like crapshoot. You can use whatever you want.
Right.
So long as you have enough channels. I happen to have 10 channels that became 20 with the most recent firmware update, okay? Probably the best firmware update we've ever had. We haven't had any problems, and it's given us tons of functions.
Yeah.
The last or 2 sets ago, there was this thing where like the screen would change colors and all sorts of weird stuff. We were late adopters, so we let everybody else figure it out.
Yeah.
Good idea.
This one we were not late adopters.
Sorry, good idea. It's like thumbs up. Which way does it look better?
It's this.
Good idea. It's not the same.
It's the same thumb.
Well, okay, so now we're basically done, so we can go back out. There's gonna be more, okay? But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do my rates and expo here. I'm gonna set this to switch F. I'm gonna treat it like there is an elevator, ailerons, and rudder, even though there's technically not a rudder, but there's still steerable nose gear, okay? Which, by the way, yeah, it is sitting down flat. I thought my steerable wasn't touching on both sides. It is. Okay, so switch F is how I want it attached. I want to go to 5, 10, and then 20. This is my standard, my default. I start in the middle setting, 10 for expo, and then I can go to 20 whilst dropping rates down. Sorry, my scrolly wheel is starting to kind of give me lots of problems. The longer you use this, if you do it the way we do it, and you do hundreds of models, your scrolly wheel will be the first thing to give up on you, okay? I just clean it once in a while and it helps. But you can see there's a little bit of movement up and down. You see that?
Mm-hmm. Oh, was that?
Yeah. And yes, you can send this in and get it fixed, by the way. I still have time to give up my transmitter, okay? So this is my normal mode. That's where I start. They're all 3 going to be tied to this, but ailerons is what we're looking at now. So this is more sensitive sticks. The neutral setting, which is going to be about double that, and then about double of that again is going to be my less sensitive sticks. But I want to start in the middle, thus giving me the best chance to get to the ground. After I take off, if I need more, I can go more. If I need less because it's not touchy enough, I can go more touchy. But the idea is I can always get out of jail on my maidens. You guys may not realize this, when we fly, we're flying for our maidens almost always. And we tell you if it's not, okay? Sometimes it's a series of 4 or 5 flights, and we tell you which ones they are in most cases, or it's the virgin maiden flight, the very first one, okay? So we're actually working out the bugs as we demonstrate the plane. Okay, that's where we start, double it, plus we drop the rates a little bit, or half it, and we keep the rates the same, okay? Then we're gonna go to rudder. This is just for steerable nose gear in this case. So we'll set that to 5. And you know, if it's just a steerable, you might want a little bit more on this, but I'm gonna go ahead and set it anyway. The reason you might want more is sometimes these F-18s and F-16s get so tipsy, but the F-16 is worse than the F-18 because the nose gear is closer to the mains. The wheelbase is longer on F-18. Also, sometimes make them roll a little bit wonky, meaning when you get up to speed and you roll, sometimes you gotta be so fast to roll because of where they put the landing gear on these, okay? So we're gonna go back to the middle setting. Okay, we're good, now we're done on that. You can do differential on this setup because we have 2 aileron servos that are separated out. I'm probably not gonna use differential because I don't think it's necessary on this plane. Throttle cut, I'm gonna set it to switch H. It's a little bit less critical, but with thrust reverse and especially pilot fatigue, which we'll be setting up shortly, I definitely wanna have throttle cut, okay? Throttle cut is tested by looking down here. It says -100 and it's working because as the throttle stick moves, you see that number stays at -100. When that gets turned off, then it's live. You can see it changing from the -100 position all the way to 0 and then all the way to +100, okay? So now throttle cut's back on. You can see that little box also indicates the off position and the on position, okay? So throttle cut's on. I say that out loud. It's part of my safety measures. Flap system, we'll make an attachment to switch B. So I highlight it and then I exercise the switch. I'm gonna leave them at, well, we already know we're not gonna overdrive them because we've already run the servos. So I can just do like -100, +100. I don't know which direction is gonna be which. We might have to rotate these or reverse these or just switch them here in this menu. And we might need more deflection. Then the elevator condition is gonna be tied opposite from what's normal. So normally, when you deploy an inboard flap, it usually makes the nose of the plane go up. So as you deploy the flaps, for whatever reason, it just likes to go up. So then we give a little bit of down elevator to correct. And so it's kind of like it just pivots the plane down, but you keep flying straight. And so in real life, that helps the pilots to be able to see over the nose of the plane as they go down and they can see the runway. Secondly, that also helps you as you go downhill in the aircraft. You know, you're flying uphill, you tend to slow down. You fly downhill, what do? You go faster. Well, if you're trying to get to the runway, what do you have to do? You have to go downhill. You're like, no, you flare. Yeah, you can flare. If you can land it like this, congratulations. Most of these RC planes, you can't fly in high alpha that far out, like in a real one, okay? You're gonna be flying down to the ground and then you come in and you level out and then you flare to bleed off the extra inertia and touch down on the mains and you do your thing, if you do it perfectly. But again, most of us don't do it perfectly. Flaperons will give you the same function. The only difference is when you deploy flaperons, the nose usually tips and then you have to give a reverse. So you give a little bit of up elevator and that keeps you going straight. That also incurs a little bit more drag coefficient, which is good. We want drag for landing because it'll slow your plane down. Even if it's 5%, that's a big difference. Make your gear last a lot longer. And in real life, you're talking about multi-million-dollar gear set here. Okay, so come back around. So we aren't gonna set the elevator to much, but we'll go ahead and leave it at 0 now because we need to do our mechanical connection still. So I'm gonna set the deployment speed to 2 seconds. And you can actually test this if you want. So when I move the switch, you can see the left aileron and the right aileron move, okay? But then they keep working as ailerons. So in neutral, takeoff, you can see where it is. And in landing, you can see where it is. But I wanna be in that setting. Why? Because I want the ailerons to be centered when I hook them up the first time. And I want the elevator to be neutral the first time when I set it up. Now, if you wanna set up flaperons versus spoilerons, then you're gonna make the function go the way you want. If you want spoilerons, then you're gonna potentially have to reverse the negative would be like 100 plus, and then this would be like minus 100, okay? So you can make them go up together, and that actually works really nice. But then that's gonna sometimes involve putting your elevator the other direction. So it's a lot to hold in one brain when you're new to this, okay? So don't be surprised if you're confused. There are some confusing steps in a flaperon configuration, okay? Again, it's not a beginner plane. I don't care what FMS says. If they're saying it's a beginner plane, that is incorrect. It's not a beginner plane.
Yeah.
There's a million better planes you could fly.
About 15 minutes.
Mixing, okay, so we gotta set up one mix. This mix is gonna be normal. It's gonna be from the switch condition on G, so I'm just gonna scroll into G, all the way to the right. Okay, so when the condition of switch G, it's gonna make throttle. I have to switch it to throttle. It won't let me do it. Okay, so throttle. I'm gonna make this only work when switch, when switch G is active, and I'm gonna click to acknowledge. I'm gonna only make it work here for pilot fatigue. I'm gonna make sure it doesn't work there and it doesn't work there. Okay, so it doesn't work there, so the switch has to be in that condition before I can set up my rate. Okay, and then I never know what direction this goes because I never know how the ESC is gonna respond, so I just leave this blank for now. But what's gonna happen is this is gonna simulate all the way up thrust when I pull this switch all the way back. So it's gonna give you reverse thrust and full reverse thrust. This is gonna be controllable, so it's not gonna be a mix. And this is gonna be forward thrust, so it's not gonna be a mix. So you can see that that little black box, that little black marker tells you which one you're dealing with, okay? And you can also see that the gear is switching between those three conditions. Obviously this isn't the gear, this is gonna be thrust reverse for us, okay? So we'll come back and finish that a little bit later, but right now, we're to the point where we'll set up a timer. So the timer's gonna be, to be honest, I don't know what we're gonna get. We'll be lucky to get 5, I'm guessing. We're gonna do a 1 out active. That means anything over 25% starts the timer. It counts down from there. At 1 minute, I want a voice. At 20, I want nothing. At 10 seconds, I want a countdown. That's gonna be a voice countdown with expiration being a tone and vibrate with a tone every minute thereafter. Walking out of the menu. Now we're ready to bind this, but before we can bind it, we gotta plug everything in. So let's plug everything in. Should be pretty easy. Camera crew is gonna come back right where she was. We're gonna scroll 1, click. Throttle, right aileron, elevator. Okay, so which one's right, which one's left? Ugh, crap, I don't know. I'm not sure. Okay, so we know where throttle's going. Throttle's easy. We also already talked about this silk screen earlier. Signals at the top, then plus, then minus. Okay, so signal is the white wire. So that's on channel 1. So channel 1, notice, is down 1 port. Okay, so it's the second port. Then we already know that thrust reverse is gonna be on channel 5, which is gear. Okay, so that gets plugged in there on the top wire. And you're like, but there's no power and ground? No, because it's already got power and ground. It just needs the signal wire. So you can see how that's plugged into the top pin, okay? So this is plugged into the second set. And if you guys are wondering, like, how the heck did you figure that out, Brian? We've done a lot of planes. So this is channel 3 for the elevators. And then one of these goes to one side and one goes to the other side. And guys, I'd be lying. This one looks like it goes to this one, which is the right wing. So that would go here. If I'm wrong, I'll switch them, okay? It's easy enough to switch anyway. And then this one, oh, jeez, man. This one, I'm just looking down into the plane, folks. And, sorry, whacked my head on the camera. This, I'm just noticing these 2 wires are tangled. I gotta untangle these 2 wires. Sorry, guys. I'm just gonna pull that out. Yeah, this one goes to that side. Okay, so that's definitely gonna be for us our left wing. So left wing goes to the 6th channel, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so orange goes up. By the way, if you didn't catch on to this, the signal is the lighter color. Then there's red is power, and then brown is ground. Or in this case, this is Futaba color code. So this would be white is signal, then red is plus, and black is ground. Hextronics JR color code, so Hextronics and JR spectrum, would be orange is the top, then red, then brown, okay? Then this is going to be the other wing, okay? Sorry, guys. I just noticed a tangle in there when I was looking, and I got to fix it when I see it. Then channel 4 is the rudder. So look where the rudder is, guys. You see where it is? It's way down here. Now, I think we're gonna have to probably extend this. So if you're buying this model and you don't have an extension cord, just use your Y cable. If you want, you can plug that in. and then you can plug it in. It'll give you a short extension, but for me, I have extension cords and I have millions of them, but I have like a bag of them up here. So I'm just gonna find one real quick and come right back. All right, so we found this extension cord. You could, like I said, you use your Y cable if you want, or you could just reach it down there. I don't know how they expect you to use this. It's ridiculous. Okay, so brown is toward the back of the plane. This was an AS3X bind plug, or is it just like a bind plug from an AS3X equipped bind and fly plane? So it's nothing special about it, just an extension cord, okay? Oh, make sure you clip your nails before you do this because you'll tear up your plane when you accidentally bump it like that. Okay, where's the rudder plug in? Rudder's on channel 4, yep. Okay? So I want that to come up underneath. Orange going up. All right, so now this is set. We can bind it as soon as we plug in a battery, but we gotta, at some point we gotta make the decision to go ahead and, we gotta bind it. Why don't we bind it before we stick it in there upside down?
Okay.
The China hobby line is what we'll use right now, just because like it's easy and it happens to have an XT60. You can plug an IC3 into this XT60 that's equipped on this plane, no problemo. It's just a little bit harder to do. And this is already gonna be kind of like a challenging task. Okay, so I'm pulling the strap. Good Lord, this is gonna suck to put this in. This is gonna suck to put this wire in. I mean this battery. Can you like work with me a little bit here for a second? I'm trying to not like run into you. You guys see this? Good, it pulls up, thank God. When those things are glued, huge pet peeve of mine. And they're glued a lot actually, believe it or not. So I'm gonna stick this in here. We'll link to this battery as an option, especially if that's what we end up using, okay? So let's see if it fits. So once I get the strap through, then you can always tell when it's gonna be a pain to load the battery because look at this. I have to use, jeez, this is gonna suck.
Are you
Somebody
on the
needs
Velcro?
to come up with a better option. No. Somebody needs to come up with a better option when they're tight. It's always F-18s, always F-16s, always have this because they got this narrow nose that we're like sticking our battery in. Okay, so I'm pulling that over. You see what I've done? I've walked that down in there with my forceps, which all hunky-dory when you're sitting here in the comfort of your home, but it's different when you're out at the flying field and you've got to dink around with this. Try to get that rotated around. Like how small of a hand do you expect humans have? Okay, so once you get that stuff down there, you see what happens is you got to press that down and you're so hard on the plane. But you see now that's in there. Now I don't know where the CG is going to work out, but we're getting close to where we can test it. But we got to bind it first. And that's one of my biggest problems when I build is I get scatterbrained and I go step 17 to step 32. We're gonna try to do better. Okay, so here's bind. All right, so it's ready. It's gonna time out like it always does. I'm gonna plug this in. Secure the plane. Press the button. Bind. Okay. So remember, it's not really doing anything with the spatial awareness that this receiver does have yet. It will be doing something. So obviously it's not, trying to auto level or anything like that right now. Okay, so the servos just came to life. Steerable's working. By the way, be mindful of where your balance lead goes. If you put your battery forward, this could cause a bit of a problem, but we got to work back there right now. So I'm actually going to cheat it as far forward just so I can have room to work, okay? So now that we have that in there, you have to remember too, double check that all this crap goes in here where it goes, okay? Because this is going to get disappeared here really quick, right? Like never to be seen again, right? So I'm going to take this, I'm going to bundle it up nicely, and then we have to make a decision on how we want to do this. First of all, I don't want to switch my ailerons, so let's make sure that the ailerons are working, okay? Now that they're centered, I just want to make sure, I can visualize this, guys, because I know what direction they need to go. Yep, okay, so that's pushing this one up, that's backward, okay? This one, so that's pushing this one up, so that would be commanding that it rolls this way, it's going backward. So in order to reverse that, reverse, right aileron, and left aileron. Okay, so now look, now when I go like this, that's gonna roll this wing down, that's gonna push, wait. Oh, they're both going the same way. So I'm gonna rotate one of them. So this is gonna roll, that's the wrong way. So I'm gonna rotate left and I'm gonna unrotate right. That's wrong. What the heck? That's gonna rotate that. That's going the wrong way. What the heck? Do you see what I'm struggling with?
Yeah, and it's hard for me to see your servos.
Yep, that's right. And you'll see them in a second, guys. That's gonna pull that down. That's gonna rotate me the wrong way. What the heck?
Are
they plugged in backward? But look, watch this, guys. Reverse is off on both now, right? When I roll this way, okay, that should make this go up, so it rolls that way, and it should make this go down, right? So that should be pulling away from me. It's pushing toward me. So this is the right wing. So if I reverse this, watch. When I do this, that's the wrong way too. So what the heck?
Is it possible, and this would be dumb, but that's the only reason I'm thinking of it.
Elevator up, elevator down. The elevator's working.
Okay.
The rudder is working correctly. What?
When they pulled those 4 wires, 2 aileron wires and 2 LED wires, is it possible that the aileron wires go into the same Y cable and the LED wires go into the same Y cable? So basically we split out the ailerons and the LEDs.
I hear what you're saying, and that's a very brilliant idea, but I don't think that's what happened. And here's why. Because I physically am seeing, when I look in here, I know you can't demonstrate this well to our customers. I'm just gonna grab one of these Y cables, okay?
Okay.
Which happens to be the second one in, right? Yep.
Yes.
The right aileron?
Yep.
Okay, so if I were to unplug this, then we would know because...
Yes, we lost just one LED.
But then both servos would keep working.
And this one is not.
So this is the right wing, and the right wing shut off. Okay,
Yes.
correct?
Correct.
So if the right wing stopped working, then that means that we have them plugged into the correct port, okay?
Yes.
So that's important, so we'll plug this back in. Guys, this is troubleshooting 101. Plug it back in, that's our right wing.
Okay.
Now the left wing is on channel 6, right? Okay, so now that shuts off. That shut off this servo, okay? So unless they already have a reverse servo in there, which could be part of the confusion, but even still, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna do this real quick. I'm just gonna pop these in because I'm having a hard time seeing what's happening.
Yeah.
Part of the reason I want these going the right direction, folks, is that when you do this, you'll understand sometimes, by the way, this robot plane stand is good, but you do have to adjust it sometimes for the length of your aircraft. If yours comes out of the box, you won't be able to do that without putting some powder on there, okay? Like baby powder or talcum powder. Works really good. And since we use all sorts of other kitchen materials, talcum powder is basically the same as cornstarch anymore.
Yeah.
It is, so it's like less cancer causing. Okay, so now, when you rotate this, it changes the absolute position from time to time. Now they're moving opposite directions, okay? When I rotate the left, they move the same direction. That's good, so they are at least changing direction. All right, so we want, because we have flaperons, we wanna go to the outside hole. And remember, we've got that one missile rail that's gonna get installed here. Okay, so we want that to be in the home centered position. So our flaps are currently in the home centered position. Not here or here, okay? So we're in the center position, right? If you're doing flaperons and you want the full deflection, then it gets a little bit more challenging because you would have to set it to your normal, like that's my normal flight mode, okay?
Right.
Okay,
Yes.
but I'm calling out -100 right now. So I have to go to center because that's the way we prepped, okay?
Okay.
So now that we're calling centered, I can hold this here so that it's flush. The aileron has to be flush because when I put that ball link on, it's gonna pull it up. So that means I have to grab this with a tool and rotate it out on the end and that's gonna get us a centered aileron, okay? So you see how this is centered? I have to hold this so I can twist this. There's one twist, two twists out, and then when I push this on, that would get me really close. Are you able to see that from back there? I don't know why you're back there.
I can see from this.
So you can see that this is lined up?
Yeah.
Like you can see this.
It looks a little high from back here.
Well, then you need to come over to the other side. See this? Look, right there. You see how that's flush? It's going down a little bit, okay? When I go to the next position, 50% further, it's too high. I'm gonna tend toward too low.
Okay.
Okay? So then if you have the ball link pliers, you can snap this on, or you can snap it on with needle nose, or you can snap it on with your fingers. So the ball link pliers will work really nice, okay? Now, same thing over here. I'm in the neutral position. You can see this isn't even square, so I have to grab this, hold it so that I can spin this. The first couple spins, it's usually really stiff, okay? Then I'm gonna hold this with my fingers, and it's gonna push it up. So I have to, if it's pushed up, then I need to run that out half a turn. So half a turn. Let's see how we look now. That's pretty close, but I gotta go in just a little bit to get that square. See this? Nice and smooth. Do you see this? Show them. After I snap this on, that's gonna be smooth, okay? See that line? You gotta line that up, okay? So I'll show you can do it without a tool, but it's just hard to do, okay? So now that we have the aileron snapped on, this should be much easier to articulate. So we're obviously rotating in the correct direction. How are we just gonna do the elevator now too, since we're here already?
Yeah, because then we might need to
Yeah, because we're gonna like run out of batteries. What's gonna happen?
Yeah,
Guys, you don't realize this.
minutes.
We run the batteries out. We make these videos so long, we run out our batteries. Okay? This one's harder to get centered. So you have to kind of look at the seam line maybe on the plane as a center. Okay? That looks pretty dang good, actually.
It does.
I think it needs to come out just a hair.
Just a little bit.
Well, excuse me, go in just a hair to pull it down. Ugh. Now if I go out half, how does that look? Remember, you have to push it on there. That's pretty good. That's as good as it's gonna get, guys. So I push it on by finger. That's one in from the end. One in from the end here as well. You'll get more throw if you go out one. Okay, so that's turned. Yes, that's like way off. It needs to come out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now this, I understand some of you are thinking, well, how do you know that's not gonna rip off? Okay, show the people this and then show the people that. Quick comparison. Wait. Do it again. See, now I'm holding it on, look at the difference.
Yeah, now you're up.
Now I'm up, so I gotta go out half a turn again. And then that looks pretty dang centered. But now I gotta go around and see if it's even. Yeah, nope. I gotta go half again as much. Half again as much. That's more even. And you just gotta look at this one. You can't feel it because there's no basis. But also look how close we are to the end here, folks. I have to make sure that isn't gonna rip out. Guys, if you don't do this, you may lose your plane. I have lost a plane, and it was a lot bigger plane, and it was this color scheme. It was actually the SU 2027. That is close to the end, but it's not. Now, how do we know? I'm gonna count. I'm gonna just pop this off and show you, okay? Look, I'm gonna count. 1 half, 2 halves, 3 halves, 4 halves, 5 halves, 6 halves. That's enough. So 1 half, 2 halves, 3 halves, 4 halves, 5 halves, 6 halves of a turn. And then we're gonna put it right back on. So we have 6 penetrations, halves.
At least.
That's enough to do this job, okay? If in doubt, reposition the actual, take the screw out right here. You would take this screw out and you would move on the spline position over. But that's gonna change your geometry, so you gotta do both sides. Elevator up, elevator down. All right, now I can flip this plane back over, put it back on its mains. How are we doing on time?
Yeah, about 2 minutes.
2 minutes, all right. So we'll try to get the ailerons figured out right now, and that'll be our end point. Okay, so aileron, see this one's low, quite a bit low.
But that was the one that when you went the other way.
Roll, that's wrong, that's wrong. So I'm gonna just go to right ailerons. Okay, rotate to right. So now, this one's right and this one's wrong. So I'm gonna go to left, rotate it. So now it's rolling left and now it's rolling right, okay? That's rolling, that would push this wing up. That would push this wing up, okay? So this needs to pop out just a hair. I don't think I'm gonna get it. I don't think I'm gonna get it.
I think you're gonna be too far the other way. Then.
I'm gonna be too far, yep. So we'll have to trim it with either sub trim or flaps. So now flaps, watch what happens. There's up and there's down. That's because we don't have it set right yet, okay? So check this out, I can walk out. I can go to flap system. I'm gonna clear this. That's my normal flight mode. And I'm gonna just go up just a hair or down just a hair. See what I did? I just walked it up. You see how I corrected that? Mm-hmm. Then for takeoff flaps, I want this to go down just a little bit. Let's go to 31, okay, because we're at 6. And then this one, I want to change that from 100 to probably more. So that'd be like a flapper on configuration that I would normally do. You can go all the way down, but just remember, you're not going to have any movement on the opposite side then. Oh, we still have movement. Okay, well, I'll do 100. So there's takeoff flaps, there's landing flaps. And I think the takeoff flaps, in fact, we're gonna go back to like -25, okay? And remember, you may want these to actually go up, but for now, that means that the elevator needs to go up a little bit. So we'll do 6, and then we'll probably roll in 9. Nah, we're gonna go more than 9. We're gonna go like 12, okay? And we're gonna see if that keeps us level as we're flying. All right, guys. So that being said, we've got the elevator going the right way. We've got the ailerons going the right way. We've got the rudder, which is the steerable, going the correct way. And the next big move is gonna be setting up AS3X and safe. So we gotta glue this thing in, and we're probably not gonna last long enough to glue this in, aren't we?
Probably. Well, it's still going. I haven't gotten to 5% yet, so.
Okay. So we're gonna do this. We're gonna take this wire. We don't really care where this ends up right now. We just need to give ourselves enough length so that we can tuck this in. And to be honest, we have so much extra on this. I normally wouldn't, but I'm gonna do it on this plane because I just feel like we're not gonna have enough otherwise. Okay, see what I did? Mm-hmm. I just used that to go around. And if in doubt, you could actually unplug and roll that connection back in. Okay, so I'm gonna de-energize the plane in doing this. See what I'm doing? I'm just taking that extra ESC length, it's just ridiculously long. And then I'm gonna keep going around. Now I'm gonna unplug this. It's gonna de-energize the receiver, but not the actual throttle, okay? Then check this out, then I'm gonna plug it back in. It's gonna re-energize this, okay? It's gonna reconnect. And look at that, we didn't even have to use a zip tie. Then I have to somehow pull this lead, which is totally serviceable now. I have to try to get this in here, okay? I would like it to be in here in this angle, okay? Mm-hmm. See this? Now I just have to work this back, okay? Why is it so beeping anyway? Let's see if it initiates. We have to go back to the Virgin initiation sequence. Elevator, rudder, ailerons. Everything's working right, so we can continue to the next step. Camera crew is gonna give me a warning when our battery's about to die. I don't need this on for this step, so I'm gonna unplug it, and then I'm just gonna slide this forward so I don't accidentally hit my bind plug. My next move is I wanna go pretty heavy on the glue here, okay? Mm-hmm. You could use 3M tape, you could do whatever you want, but I'm gonna just tell you right now, this will work really good. And we have done it this way a bunch of times and had great success. You gotta remember, if you're taking 3M tape to reduce vibration impact on your plane, you are literally making a piece of 3M tape here. You're putting adhesive and you're putting it in there, okay? It's the same as having a foam in the middle. You don't need the vibration dampening on this type of plane. Maybe in a big gasser, you might need that, okay? So this is a little bit tricky. I wanna make sure I do it right. I want that glue to spread, but I wanna be able to get the canopy on. Does the canopy dive down at all? I don't believe it does on this plane. You see it's got this, it's gonna go flush along that surface, okay? So I'm gonna literally push down. I'm just gonna push this back and that glue is gonna spread all over the place. It's gonna be a giant mess for a minute, okay? And I just want it there, okay? I don't even care if it sticks out just a hair, but there's no reason to get that glue on the canopy because that glue will stick the canopy. So now I'm gonna let that slide out and just slather the glue. See why I like China glue? I can just let this stick And pull that out. Okay, now that stuff is under there where it's going to be glued. So now what do you do when you put glue that's China glue like that? What do you do, Camera Crew?
Let it cook off.
You let it cook off. So it works with the ambient air, it starts to react. And the next thing you know, it's fully reacted. And then guess what? You stick it in there and it never comes out until you want it to. And yes, you can use the kicker to actually undermine the stickiness of it later, should you decide to do that. What the heck is going on out there? Look at that fog rolling in.
I know,
That's
I was
so
just noticing
cool.
that.
It's crazy. It's like clear over here, and let's show
Like
them out there real
foggy
quick
out
while we
front.
wait for that glue to set.
Oh, it's really foggy all
It's
over
like
there.
super foggy.
Yeah.
So we have been known to fly in fog for maidens, and I was just paying attention to the windsock because I don't know if it's going to be calm enough to fly. Yeah. I really honestly just don't know. But this glue will take probably 30 seconds to a minute to set up to the point where I can get it in there and leave it sit. My fear is because it's invisible to me, I won't know if it peels down and relaxes to the point where it's loose. So the second time I fly this, I'm gonna reach in there and push up on it and make sure it's seated, okay? Like you can also tell by just tacking it. See the strings? Look at that, guys. You don't wanna take that off because you want it to work. And you definitely don't wanna get it on this thing.
Yeah,
okay?
that would be bad.
So now I'm gonna go ahead and slide it back into position and just try to make it go square. Okay? So it's into position. It's fairly square, and I need to get my finger under here so I can press it in. You see how I'm pushing from the back and just working it. Man, lots of fingering on this project. So you gotta get your longest finger to do this step. And there it is. And that's where it is, guys. Okay. Then the second thing is you can also see, good thing we had that extension cord because there's no way in heck that would have gone in there.
Nope.
So while we're between steps, I can take my 4 steps. We're not quite dead on our battery yet. We're gonna do forward programming when we come back from the battery charging. This needs to drop down in here. It says rudder. Just gonna carefully locate that down there. And we don't even have to deal with an antenna. Now, if you was in the 631 rather than the 630, then you would need to manipulate your antenna somewhere. Well, good luck controlling where that goes. You're just gonna have to throw caution to the wind and hope it ends up in a good spot. Remember, you do have an EDF back here. You don't wanna get sucked into the EDF, okay? But the EDF is in a different cavity, okay? So if you were to look down there, do you see any of that wire sticking out?
Nope, I do not.
Exactly. There have been planes, believe it or not, that we have done that have had wires just like this that go into that opening, and it's ridiculous. Then I'm gonna take my finger and I'm gonna pull any of that. In fact, I'm gonna grab it out of the garbage can. I'm gonna grab one of my Q-tips and I'm gonna use the tack from my Q-tip to pull off any excess glue that was right there. Now I'm gonna take this fresh part of it, see if it comes off. You see what's happening? It's gonna peel off that little teeny tiny bit of residual glue that we don't want to hold our canopy on, okay? All right, good. So now, honestly guys, at this point, the only thing that's left, lick your finger, wipe it, make sure it doesn't stick. It doesn't stick. So our next and final step is going to be, we could check CG before the battery dies.
Go ahead.
Because everything is mounted.
Yeah.
Okay? So we're safe to plug in, our throttle cut's working. Oh! I don't know where this battery's gonna end up, but I'm assuming we're probably a little bit far forward right now, okay? So the center of gravity is marked on this plane.
Yeah.
Which is really nice. You gotta have it fully intact, right? So at this point, normally we would check a plane like this upside down, okay? So center of gravity is right there. So it's obviously like way nose heavy right now, okay? So it's a 2200 that we've got in there, 4S. It's way nose heavy. So pop that latch. We knew that because we had slid this forward to make room to work. So I'm gonna push it all the way back into that opening. I'm gonna probably ultimately have my wires go that way. And we do not need to mark the CG, which is super nice on this, but that wire has weight, guys, make no mistake. I'm gonna test it right with my fingers on it this way, going upright. See how it does. Now we're tail heavy. So you're saying that I can actually put the battery in the middle of the strap positions? Are you freaking kidding me? Guys, that never ever happens on a jet. On prop airplanes, we get it all the time. On jets, we almost never get it. See how nice that is? Keep that nice and maintained right in the position we want. Keep it out of your steerable. Right on there. Right on there, folks. That is fantastical. Okay, so we aren't dead yet?
We're at 5% now, so we're going.
Okay, so because we're at 5% on our battery, elevator up, elevator down, roll left, roll right, yaw left, yaw right, and real quick before our battery dies, full throttle. Holy cow. Okay,
wow.
Let's see. Okay, throttle cuts off. Close, not 1-to-1. And then let's see if our thrust reverse works yet. Okay, thrust reverse is not fully set up, so throttle cut is off. Thrust reverse. Forward. Nothing, okay? So we'll play with that when we come back. Guys, at this point, it's probably still attached to the gear, except we de-associated that. So throttle cut. Is that forward?
Yeah.
That's forward. Reverse? No. Reverse thrust. Blowing at you. Yeah. See? Reverse thrust. Forward thrust. So guys, what do we know about Predator ESCs? You may not be able to depend on it. So the pilot fatigue is a good way to bounce this plane and crash it on landing. We'll teach you how to set it up, and it's your risk, okay? Next up, forward programming and reverse thrust. All right, so we gotta get thrust reverse set up, and then we're gonna do forward programming. Thrust reverse, of course, is an optional feature. You don't have to use it, but if you do plug it in, you have to set it up. I just replied to some comments today that had, somebody had that Cessna 182, and they had issues with it going into thrust reverse because they plugged it in, and I believe why it happened, they were coming around on final and thrust reverse just kicked on randomly. Well, that's because they were floating the control. That means that they had it plugged into a channel, but they didn't have it commanded high or low. If you're gonna set it up, meaning you're gonna plug it in, you command it high or you command it low. If you command it minus 100, it's gonna be forward thrust. If you command it plus 100, this is the Spectrum world here, not Futaba, not FR Sky, any of that stuff. I don't know what percentage bases they use. But we're plus 100, minus 100. By default, you can go plus 150 and you can go minus 150. So it'd be 300 counts of throw from the top to the bottom. But you have to open that up in your servo setup if you choose to do that, okay? So let's talk about this for a minute. Throttle cut is currently on.
Can I ask a clarifying question? If you don't want thrust reverse, just don't plug in that little
yellow
wire.
Just don't plug it in. If you don't want it, don't plug it in. If you think you want it or you want to have it, you know, for like a float plane or something like that. I mean, a lot of people put floats on the Cessna 182 or similar planes like that. You're probably not going to put floats on this plane, I'm guessing. But thrust reverse is nice. If it doesn't work, it's going to make a difference. All right, so let's go ahead and set up a digital switch setup for this. So digital switch setup, we're going to go in and scroll over to select. We're going to select switch G, and then we'll highlight that. We'll scroll down here, and we're going to set 3 different positions. The forward switch should be reverse thrust, should be forward thrust. So minus 100 is forward thrust in this, and it's ironic because that's the way Avian does it too. I don't know why minus 100 is forward thrust, but that's the way it is, okay? So throttle cut is off, my switch is forward. If I move this, it's gonna go forward, like it's gonna blow at me, and it's not gonna blow that box over. You can obviously tell it's blowing at me. Now when I give it no throttle, it goes to 0, okay? So that's forward thrust when the switch is here. Now, when I go here, I'm at 0. I don't know if it's gonna go forward or if it's gonna go reverse. It's still going forward, but watch this. At some point, when I go up, it's gonna switch. Okay? I don't know where it's gonna switch, but sometimes you have to return to 0. It's going reverse now. Now forward. Okay, let's see that. Now reverse. Now forward. Now reverse. Okay, throttle's down to nothing. Throttle cuts back on. You can see how that would happen. I don't know exactly where it is because there is a point where it switches on and switches off. But as you know, kind of like with your sticks, if you're not quite centered, You hope it's at 0. You assume it's at 0 when it's in the center, but you don't really know that. And this ESC does not tell us how to set that up. So I am going to force it to all the way to plus 100, which is going to give us a guarantee to be in thrust reverse if it's available, okay? Now, some might argue you go to more than 100, but I don't know what that would do either, so I'm just going to go plus 100, right? And you'll notice this little box here tells us what position the switch is in currently, so I'm going to go up to plus 100, right? So we are definitely not floating, okay? So now, this is where we are now. This is going to be reverse thrust. This will end up being pilot fatigue, but we don't necessarily know we can trust that yet. So I'll just come over here so I can show you the differences while we're in this menu. Throttle cut is currently on. I've now turned it off. So this should be forward thrust. Forward thrust, now reverse thrust, still reverse thrust, but no pilot fatigue because we haven't mixed it yet, okay? So this is, in the middle, this is controllable. So full and off. Forward thrust, reverse thrust, forward thrust. I am noticing that sometimes the way you can tell if this is going to work is dependent on where you are in the throttle position. So it's going to be loud. I'm going to go full throttle, and then I'm going to go to reverse thrust, and it may not switch. And I got to make sure I hold this enough so it doesn't like fly out of my hand. I'm below 50 now on my throttle. Now it's switched. Okay, throttle cuts on. So what have we learned? In order for pilot fatigue to work, the throttle position is going to have to be back to 0 and then back up. I don't know how long it has to be. So pilot fatigue is not going to work unless throttle is brought down to nothing or something below 50% and then back to 100%. So that's more complicated. I don't want to have to set up a complicated thrust reverse setup.
Right.
But I am going to tell you this. Most people are going to be coming in for landing. They're going to be either at or below 50% for landing, okay? Because you're going to be reducing your throttle. You're not going to be like full 100% throttle on the way into landing. But you might be gliding to landing and then pull it into thrust reverse. Once you're in thrust reverse, these Predator ESCs used to beep. There'd be an audible noise you would hear when it switched from forward to reverse. Now, I don't know if that was just feedback through the motor or if it was actually, well, I mean, obviously it's playing through the motor, but I'm going to do this real quick as a test. So I'm in thrust reverse. I have no throttle being applied. Now I'm going to give this, whoops, throttle cuts off. Forward thrust, or excuse me, thrust is obviously reverse and still reverse. And it switches right there. But watch this. Now I'm going to demonstrate again. If I'm at 50%, I know it's noisy because my mic is here. Over 50%, it doesn't switch. It doesn't switch. Now below 50%, it does. Okay, so we've all learned something today. If the throttle position is not below 50%, it's not going to allow you to switch out of forward thrust and go to reverse thrust. But the same would be true for reverse thrust. So let's try that. So throttle cuts off. I'm in reverse thrust. Doesn't matter which one. Over 50%, over 50% still, and it has not switched. As soon as I drop below, it goes to forward thrust. Okay? Do you guys understand what just happened here? The throttle stick condition is going to make a difference on whether or not thrust reverse is going to work live. Okay? So, because we depend on pilot fatigue setting, we want it to go full bore right now, regardless. Now, when I have throttle cut on, of course, it's not going to do anything. It's just going to like exist, okay? Once we shut off thrust or our throttle cut, this should go full bore and it should roll the plane backward, okay? So now we have to figure out how we're going to handle this. We have this set up correctly though. This is just going to be pertaining to the digital switch setup, okay? Now, the other thing we could do is I almost wonder if we could make a mix. Okay, so maybe we need to you can do a logical switch setup too. And that would be switch 1 would be switch G. Okay, so if switch G and switch 2, throttle cut is on throttle, okay? So if the throttle is, I don't know how this is going to work because I've never done this before. So let's say So position 1, position 2. I'm not sure how this works yet. This is logical switch 1. See that? Look, so throttle is these positions, and then this is the G position, okay? So if I go to this position, so you see how it moves up and down? I wonder, see then that's gonna move for this, so I wonder if it needs to be the other way around. So this would be throttle, and then this one would be G, okay? So rather than the normal mix, what we do, I wonder if we could just do this. So in this position, see how it's moving up and down now? So you can set where the positions are, by the way, I believe. I'm just not sure exactly how to do that. So it's treating it like a 3-position switch. I'm not sure this is gonna work for us. See how it says, I don't know what that means. Because that's just a number, right? So it looks like 0 through 9. Oh, okay. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna not do this right now because I don't know how to do it. So I'm gonna reset this by inhibiting that and inhibiting that. But we're gonna come back and play with that some other time off camera. When I figure it out, there's also a combo switch set up. Switch 1, relationship, switch 2, status, inhibit. So combo switch. Again, this is gonna be probably something I wanna play with off camera, but for now, I'll show you the way we normally mix. So this is disabled when I have this or this true. So when I'm in forward thrust, all the way forward on this is switch G, if I go to the middle setting, it's still disabled. But when I go to this last setting, then what's gonna happen is I need throttle to go to 100%, okay? So if the rate is, this is where I have to undo my throttle cut, and then I have to give a little bit of throttle. It's obviously going reverse right now. So that's gonna go up. And this I don't really care about. That goes down, a little minus. That gets us about half of it. You can see this number, minus 26. I'm gonna turn that off because it's obnoxious and might make it hard for you guys to hear me. So now you can see when I go up here, I'm gonna go to like 125 and see what percentage that puts out. Okay, it's gonna be loud. So it goes to 150. Okay, so that's pilot fatigue. Now, that means I'm offset of 100% and the rate of 125. I can't mix any more there without mixing in more throttle in my servo setup. Okay, so did you show them that?
Yes.
So here's the new problem. We have a new problem, and let's just talk about the new problem. When you're flying along, you're not gonna generally have throttle cut on. So, throttle sticks down, throttle cuts off. Pilot fatigue works from a neutral setting, okay? Here's controllable thrust reverse. As you can see, that works. And forward thrust, obviously that works, which is like no doubt. So if you're sub 50%, pilot fatigue's gonna work. Throttle cuts on. I am sub 50%, but just barely. Here's what I think is gonna happen. As soon as we go to pilot fatigue, we're setting it to 100% immediately without a moment for it to go down. So, you know why pilot fatigue will work. Throttle cuts off. I'm now flying along. I chop my throttle and I touch down. Pilot fatigue will work. Throttle cuts on. So, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There is a new logical step that has to happen in order to guarantee it works on this particular plane. I'm gonna give you examples of 2 other planes that this happened on. There was the Avanti
70.
50.
Oh, the 50.
Bounced. Oh no, 64 millimeter Futura.
Yes.
Bounced on me.
Yep.
Flew off. 70 millimeter F-18 bounced on me because of this very problem. So now we have a new technical issue we have to work through.
Great.
With the avians, we don't have this problem.
And we didn't seem to have the problem with the
We didn't with the Super Scorpion,
but that's
and we didn't with the Avanti, but It's also, okay, two things are true. It's a bigger ESC, and I fly them different because they're bigger planes. So get this, when I come in, I am coming in to land, and I am out of throttle, okay? There are times that I'm in throttle to stay ready to give it a little bit of a kiss of throttle so I can go and fly away, right? But if I know that this is the case, I can respond. I just don't want this to be something that an inexperienced pilot has to remember. But let's be honest, you're not flying this if you're an inexperienced pilot. You're gonna be flying this if you're a more experienced pilot. Doesn't mean you need to be an expert pilot. I'm certainly not. But by the way, I cannot believe those fixed gear have so much, like, I love it. I'm saying slop, but it's actually perfect because you wanna be able to give up a little bit of that before braking. And it's the perfect amount of springiness. And with rock hard tires, I was expecting it to be terrible. Okay, now, why are we so worried about thrust reverse? Because when you run a short strip, we do have landing flaps, so we're gonna have drag here. And even if you did a spoiler on instead of a landing flap, instead of a flapper on, you would still, induce additional drag. Even though you're spoiling lift, you still get the drag that comes with it. It's gonna be about the same, okay? There might be a small aerodynamic difference, but I can't articulate that to you. If they go up like this, you're still gonna create drag. Just like an air brake would come up and create drag, okay? Up or down, doesn't really matter. They got air brakes that come out the sides, they got air brakes that come out the bottom, air brakes that come out the top and bottom, like on the A-10, the outboard aileron actually goes up and down. It's pretty sweet. So there's a lot of cool things that these planes do over the years, but a typical inboard flap would be better. So, thrust reverse, why does it matter? Because when I land this in short order, I want to be able to stop it in short order. Okay, we fly from a short strip, and so we have 275 feet turn to end, and then we have trees on both ends. Also, I gotta say, this is favoring just a little bit to the side. You see that? I wonder if I can just move it. That's pretty straight, actually. It's not too bad. So, what have we learned? We have a mix that technically will command full thrust reverse all at once, but I need to figure out if there is a way. I can set up a sequencer, but I don't know the duration with which we have to be below 50% before we kick into 100%. I might think on this for just a second. All right, so guys, I came up with a potential solution, but the solution creates a different problem. So we're just gonna talk about this for a minute. What have we learned? What we've learned is that the Predator ESC has an inherent issue that is not necessarily an issue as much as you have to prepare the motor to go into reverse thrust. So if you're greater than about 50% on the stick, meaning about 0 in spectrum, not plus 100, not 25, not 30, not 7, but if you're at -1 to -100 on the throttle stick, if you're at -1, it's gonna allow you to switch to thrust reverse and it will do it. But if you're at +1, it ain't gonna do it. Until you drop below, then it's gonna do it.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna demonstrate again. Okay, so throttle cuts off. I made one more mix. I'll show you how we might resolve this. Flying along, going at me. Now, kind of fatigue controllable, but limited, okay? Then full thrust reverse, not blowing at me, blowing that way, okay? Now, watch. Here's the problem. I killed my battery now. Okay, so real quick, we'll switch batteries and come right back. Okay, so just full disclosure, we ran that pack down to 3.45 volts. So pretty low, but anyway, that's how much I've been screwing with this off camera. And it got dark, but it got dark while we were basically charging our phone.
Yeah.
So I played with 3 different potential solutions, and I'll show you what I did, and then I'll show you why it doesn't work. So in other words, you're not gonna end up doing it, but I want you to understand how I came to the conclusion. This time I put the wires this way to keep out of my steerable nose gear, and also you'll be able to put a voltage alarm in here. But let's go ahead and plug this back in. Throttle cuts on, stick is down. Remember, this mix I adds one more point of vulnerability, and we'll talk about it in great detail, okay? So we're just gonna drop this down in here, see how this all works. So far, so good. Pretty impressed with these packs. These China Hobby Line batteries have been good so far. We know that some of you guys have had good luck. The Spectrum Smart Packs have been very good to us, with the exception of in really high power demand circumstances like powerful jets. Then if you do series, you're fine. But if you're just talking about a 6S, it just feels like we're too easy to puff, okay? On especially twins, okay? And that's true of most batteries we found. We haven't found one that doesn't like to puff. Okay, so everything is working except for thrust reverse. Remember, throttle cuts off, going along at 60%, 70%. Come over here and show them. I don't know why you're over there. So your throttle is up here, you're past 50%, then it goes here, it reduces, and then it goes full pilot fatigue, okay? Now you're still in reverse, but you're not gonna tend to leave that stick there. But my goal is I wanna get to reverse. Almost always I remove throttle at some point or go to throttle cut when I'm done flying, okay? So my problem is now different, but we have moved the problem to an area where we're vulnerable of crash, and we put it into a situation where we're not as vulnerable, but we still are vulnerable, and I'll show you why, okay? Let's show you the mix. So going in, this is the first mix from G to throttle. It's only, throttle cut is on. It's only active in this position. This gives you your pilot fatigue, okay? So it basically just cranks out the throttle full strength when it's in this position on pilot fatigue, okay? In this position, there's no mix, right? So it's only in this position. Remember, this is only to then tie our thrust reverse having been on and mimicking what would happen if you had full stick and then a little bit more actually, okay? But all with the flip of a switch, right? Now we have to add another mix in here, which is in this, we call it mix 2 here. It's another mix. It's gonna be a normal, okay? Just to show you what that looks like. Sorry, my scrolly's being weird. So G is gonna be mixed to throttle again, but this time I mixed it only in the middle here, okay? So in that middle condition, I have a different rate, and this is going to force my throttle low. So while this is live, I'll let you watch the screen, okay? So throttle cuts off, nothing's happening, right? Until I break a certain point. You see, the throttle didn't wake up because it's way locked down at minus 150. Why minus 150? Because I need to guarantee that if the stick is all the way up, we're at least below zero by a couple, okay? So that also limits the amount of thrust reverse. But guys, if you're just trying to taxi around, that's gonna help, okay? But if you're trying to stop in a hurry, you know, if you were throttle stick down, you didn't have the problem in the first place. So then it goes full thrust reverse, okay? And you're gonna be able to switch back to forward thrust without any problem, okay? You know what's crazy, guys? When I give this throttle and it's about 50%, it's cold air. Then when I get to 100%, it's warm air. That is crazy. Like, it's warm air because the motor is hot and it's blowing past that motor. That is incredible. It's very weird. I only know this because I've been sitting here playing with this for an entire pack, okay? So what does the middle setting do? The middle setting forces the throttle low, even for a fraction of a second, okay? So remember, the other thing you can do is you can probably set up G switch to slow. So it'd be a 1/10 of a second change. Although I don't know if that will work because it's a switch and not a rudder or an output, okay? A switch is an input, a rudder is an output, right? You can change the speed from normal to something else, okay? So that would be set up here under servo, travel, and then over to speed. See? You would have to have that then associated to another one of these mixes, okay? And you can scroll all the way over here to the X plus. See that? See that? There's the SB. There's the ones we were looking for and finding. See that? All that stuff, it's crazy. Okay, so we're not gonna change the speed. And the reason I wanna talk to you about this is because it still causes a different conflict. Now you don't have as much controllable thrust reverse, which for many of you, is probably what you want, okay? And so to get pilot fatigue with the Predator ESC, you have to remember, if you don't wanna do the solution, just do it like we did before on the first mix, okay? So I'm gonna show you the mixes again. So I'm gonna scroll down here to mix. And just understanding that you have to reduce throttle, okay? So what you would do is you would, throttle cut is on. This is disabled, so you make G tied to throttle. You do rate of 125 to minus 100. And then down here, you turn the switch G on and you go over here and highlight only 2 and you disable by clicking, 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 clicking to make those dashes instead of being live, okay? Live but inactive, right? So you force it to not do anything in those other 2 switch conditions, okay? See that? Okay? That's just my cursor right there, okay? See how that little gray box moves over, a little black box underneath? So in that condition, that's gonna blow hard, okay? And because we have, on the way there, we have to go to the middle, this switch forces throttle low regardless of where the stick is. Now keep in mind, if you have throttle cut on, it's gonna be at minus 100 because throttle cut is throttle cut, okay? So I hope that we've made this clear without completely confusing the heck out of most of you. If you're confused by this, trust me, don't use the thrust reverse. It's not for you yet. When you get ready for it, go for it. We're just trying to come up with a solution to a technical problem that we've just recently understood was a problem. If you know you're gonna bring your throttle stick down during a landing and you're coming in and flaring and you're just gliding in, which most people do with a jet, then you'll be fine. If you're sub 50, it's gonna work right then. So, that all being understood, now we gotta do forward programming. I'm sorry that took so long. It feels like forever for me because I've been doing it live, but you guys have only seen a small portion of it, okay? By the way, I did try sequencing. I did try logical switch setup, and I just could not figure out how to get the output to actually change. So I'm not gonna mess with that. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do forward programming. Why? Because we need AS3X and safe. All right, so throttle cut's on, forward thrust is initiated, and our stick is down. So we're gonna click, we're gonna scroll into forward programming, and this is really the meat and potatoes of what you need in radio setup. So this is probably the most critical part. Gyro settings, first time setup. Make sure all your crap's set up, which we did. Make sure everything's working the right direction. Set it level, continue, set it on its nose, and we're gonna click continue. So I'm just gonna do this real quick, and then camera crew is gonna click continue. Okay, so that's the position. So it's upside down, and you can kind of see, like if this was set with the plane like this, that's about the way that would look. I don't know where the CE is on the bottom, but I'm just gonna take its word for it. I will show you how to test this as well in the next few steps, okay? So now the next step is to hit continue. It's gonna reboot. Gain channel select. So we want our knob, which we knew was set to channel 8. Okay, so we'll accept that, then we'll go to next. And then we're gonna apply, it's gonna reboot. Holding the plane just in case it decides to do something crazy, which usually about this time of a model setup, you see the one dance, but not 2, because that comes when safe is there. Now I'm gonna click, it's gonna bring me back into forward programming. I'm gonna go to gyro settings, F mode setup. This is flight mode setup, so it says 1. Okay, so it's not changing, so we obviously don't have that right. So FM channel. Remember we set this one to like 9 or 10 or something like that?
What did we set it to?
It says aux 1, which I don't know that I trust that.
No, it'd be aux 2, but I don't think we assigned it to a switch.
You didn't?
I don't think so.
Okay, so now if you're not sure, I'm gonna change this to aux 2, and the input's gonna be switch D, okay? Now I'm gonna hit next and see if it moves. Yep, so we got that right. Now, the other thing we can do is we can walk all the way out, we can click and we can scroll down to system setup. We can disconnect RF, then that orange light shuts off. Then we can go down to channel assign and we can go to this. Instead of having it say D, we can scroll to the left until it says flight mode, okay? Because we already attached D to flight mode through the flight mode thing. Now, once it boots, radio's live again. We'll go back to forward programming. This, you don't have to do it in out of order this way too, by the way. F mode setup. So let's go to FM channel and see it already switched to F mode, okay? So aux 2, channel 7 is now F mode, okay? So now this will change. Pretty cool, right? Okay, so that's going to be active for AS3X. Now I'm going to inhibit that. Now our labels are correct. But this says active for AS3X, which is true with safe. Okay, so now we're going to hit back. Actually, we'll go next. I don't know why it's previous. Okay. Now we'll do first time safe setup. Flight mode setup, make sure it's correct. It is correct. Hit next. Okay. Continue. So we want it to be in flight mode 3, not 1 or 2, but 3. Okay. All the gains and crap have to be set, blah, 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 whatever. Level, model, and capture attitude. Boom. Wow. Okay, so I'm a little bit concerned about that number. And why am I concerned? Because I didn't think it'd be moved. I'm just gonna reach in here and press the thing and make sure it's not like delaminated at all. It does not feel like it, but there is evidently a little bit of a roll and a little bit of a pitch to that. So inside of there, it's not perfectly true and it's not perfectly true, which is unusual. I did not expect that. But that's the beauty of this system, is that it knows where it is. I'm gonna try it again. See?
Okay.
That's crazy. I just didn't believe there was that much roll going on. Okay, so then you can actually manually adjust those if you disagree with that too. Okay, so in this mode, we're gonna have limits of our bank angles. I wanna set them to 60 and 60. That gives me a little bit more room to play with. And then I'm gonna turn on self-level with angle demand. That's auto leveling. Then it's off, and we don't really care about this. And it's off. So now we have AS3X, AS3X, off, and then safe mode. So now within safe, we'll hit next. We'll hit apply. Now you're gonna that means dance 1, dance 2. That means safe is available, but not necessarily on. It is happens to be on now. Now also just keep in mind, safe is auto leveling our plane right now. So check this out. Even though AS3X isn't active, it's trying to find the quickest route to level, okay? Quickest route to level. Look at the elevator, quickest route to level. Check it out. Trying to roll us over. Look at the elevator. Look at the elevator. So the quickest route to level is working. Now also, this would be the time where I would go in and check a couple other things. So the receiver is rebooting. Well, it's already rebooted, obviously, because it's working. So now I'm gonna go to gyro settings. Safe settings. Now watch this. Angle limits, you remember all that? That's what we just set, okay? So what do the angle limits look like? So the way this works is elevator up. It's gonna eventually degrade to nothing when I get to the angle that's a limit allowed, okay? Now same thing with the roll. So I'm gonna roll until I get to that point and that's gonna stop, okay? And the same is true for both directions. Now also for pitch down. So I'm gonna give a full pitch down until I'm pointed that way. It's gonna let me go that steep. And it might overshoot a little bit, but then when I let go, it's gonna try to level the aircraft, okay? Pretty cool, right? So you've now tested all those different scenarios so that you can verify that it's gonna correct in the right direction. Because if it's limiting you in the right direction, then it should correct in the right direction, but we'll also check the correction here in a minute. Okay, remember, sensor assisted flight envelope is auto leveling in this case. There's another thing called envelope, we don't use that. It's called angle demand, and what is the other thing?
Self-level
angle demand.
Yeah.
Okay. So the angle demand is going to limit your angles. So that's like pitch and roll limits, and then auto level. Okay. So now we're going to go to fixed adjustable gains. So these are currently fixed. I want to go back, AS3X gains, 40, 50, and 60. This is where we would change that if we wanted. They're off in this mode because we have it inhibited, and then they're back on, and they're the same in both modes. But then I want to figure out how to set my gain, fixed or adjustable gain. They're adjustable by default when it's hooked to an adjustable gain knob like that. Then they're off, and then they're adjustable again, right? But the basis for full adjustment is here and here. So let's say that this knob is all the way up, then you're gonna have 60 for yaw percent, okay? And when you have it at 50%, you would have 30% for the yaw. Same is true, you'd have 25% for pitch and 20% for roll if you were at 50% on the knob. And if you were down at 0, guess what? You'd have 0 of all of them, okay? So if you turn it up to halfway, then this is a proportional amount of gain for each of those different channels. So for instance, if you want it to be a little bit more locked in, like tighter tolerances in safe, you could kick these values up just a little bit. You're gonna be more likely to oscillate though, just forewarning you, okay? Now, the gain sensitivity we turn up for our test, but I'll show you 2 ways to do that. Okay, so now I'm gonna walk out. I'm gonna just go out to normal mode. I have to give throttle this time. Okay, so throttle cuts off, 25% or more, throttle cuts back on. I'm gonna clear my timer because I don't care to hear that. And then we can look and see it's going like crazy. The steerable nose gear is going opposite of whatever we're doing. So like if I rotate this way, it's gonna turn that way. If I rotate this way, it's gonna turn that. It's easier to see on a rudder, okay? Now, we're not trying to auto level here. So now we're in AS3X. So when I lift the wing, that aileron's gonna go up. Yep. And I lower it down, it's gonna go down. When I lift the wing, it's gonna go up. When I lower the wing, it's gonna go down. When I jank the plane to pitch it this way, the elevator's gonna resist. And when I pitch it that way, it's gonna resist. Remember, this receiver doesn't care what direction the plane is oriented. It's going to resist the change. See this? See this? Look, it's resisting the change in any direction on that pivot axis. See, as I move the plane, it's resisting. As I move the plane, it's resisting. It's resisting, it's resisting. Doesn't matter what direction I move it, it's just resisting it, right? Which is what you want to happen. But generally we test pitch and then roll. And in our case, yaw doesn't matter because you don't see a rudder, except it does because you still have yaw authority through the steerable nose gear. So you can test that here. Roll it, and you see, I'm on the roll axis. It doesn't care because it is spatially aware of where it is in time and space and how to impact change to hold its position best. Right, remember, AS3X will help to stabilize your flight by resisting environmental impact, like a giant human hand that isn't yours touching the stick. But you're allowed to fly. See, I've locked in that stick there. I want it to go all the way, okay? So let's show you another trick. So when you are moving around like crazy, you can see it all the way up. Trying to resist that. Starts oscillating, turn it off. Turn it on. Now you're gonna get that same correction in safe, but it's also gonna try to level the plane. See, same behavior. And still controllable by that, but it's trying to auto level now too, so you hear a little bit. That's auto leveling. Off. Now turn your gains up to 50%, go back to AS3X and you can see the movement, you can see the movement. Now let's see what flaps look like. Takeoff flaps, now landing flaps. Now watch, the correction's still gonna correct. When I lift this wing, this is gonna go up. Yep. When I push the wing down, it's gonna try to go down, there ain't nowhere to go though. Same thing here, I'm gonna lift this wing, it's gonna go up, up. Now down. Now elevator, same thing. Look, up, now down. Why do we test it with flaps on? Because we need to make sure that when the flaps are deployed, we don't have some asymmetric correction. Down, now up. Up, now down. See? Steerable, steer, opposite. Steers opposite. That one can be a little confusing because it's a little bit weird to see it backward like that. Whereas the rudder looks just like the other control surfaces. Now flaps are off. So what have we done? In this very short video, we've taught you how to not only overthink things, but also fail miserably. And that would be with a thrust reverse. Okay, so throttle cuts off, thrust reverse, controllable. Okay, now pilot fatigue. Makes like suction on my hand. Okay. So that's pretty cool. So throttle cut works. Forward thrust, over 50%. Pilot fatigue, working. Now back on the way out, now we're still thrust reverse. So throttle cut's on, sticks down. So you guys understand, the new problem is, after we have deployed pilot fatigue, you have to reduce the throttle back to 0 quickly, and then you can go back to town with your flight, okay?
So if you go back through the range, you probably aren't gonna get forward thrust. You have to go all the way to 0, is what you're saying, right?
So what I'm saying is, under normal circumstances, by the time I'm deploying pilot fatigue, okay? Did you notice that one went forward?
Yeah.
It did.
It did.
So it's only just that one time. I must have gone so fast through the switches that it never actually saw that.
Maybe so.
I went from throttle cut straight to pilot fatigue. That's only one time. See, and guys, I'm just gonna tell you this right now. Predator ESCs have put us in this circumstance a number of times. We have made safety measures as best we can right now. But I think we're probably still gonna be potentially let down. Hopefully, not badly. In fact, I think I'm gonna take that other mix out because I just don't trust it.
Which other one?
The middle mix.
Really?
Okay,
but which way would you rather have it work more reliably? To get pilot fatigue when you're landing?
Yeah.
Then you need to do what you already have.
Okay, so throttle cuts off, because in a jet, it's basically pilot fatigue or I don't do a lot of controllable.
Right.
But if I want to back taxi, let's say I'm pulling up to the line and I overshoot, well, I can still control it. It's just not going to give me much.
Right.
Okay. So, but I usually what I tend to do is I go down the runway, I'm correcting, and then I go pilot fatigue, or pilot fatigue, and I will turn on throttle cut. I'll be in pilot fatigue, and then I'll just give it kisses of throttle like that.
I feel like when you are committed to throttle cut, you are committed to throttle cut.
Yeah, right.
It's not like you do it midair to do some weird thing and then you need it to go back to forward thrust.
Right, but that time I did that was right after throttle cut. So you guys see my problem. So we have AS3X, we have safe, we have all that stuff working. The steerable tail wheel or steerable nose wheel gains don't matter, but we still need to do the hand launch thing because there's a lot of people that are gonna hand launch this plane. So let's set up hand launch assist too. So hand launch assist is a function of safe. So if you go into forward programming, I think it's under other settings. No, aux output settings.
No, it's under the safe settings.
It's under gyro. No, it's nose wheel. Nose wheel is where you would set up the system setup.
Oh, there it is.
There it is, hand launch assist. Okay, so hand launch assist is inhibited currently. I want to put it on, well, how do I want it to be on?
Oh.
Crap, I didn't know. It had to be a flight mode. So you got flight modes on this. I didn't know it had to be a flight mode.
It can't just be on?
Well, I mean, flight mode 3, well, it would be when I have safe on.
Yeah.
So it'd be on flight mode 3, right?
Yeah.
But it's not got the label. And then the G-force threshold, throttle threshold, so let's just say 70%. So if you didn't give it 70%, it's gonna assume you're not like hand launching. The duration, 2 seconds, pitch offset would be 10, okay? So let's do duration. Why don't we do, let's just
go with the defaults for now.
Yeah, let's go with the defaults for now. But I'm trying to think, can I even show this? Can I even demonstrate it? Probably not.
I doubt it.
So we'll just see. I mean, you'll be able to see when we're flying. And then safe panic mode. I don't usually set up panic mode anymore just because I just find it just about as easy to just go to safe. Now, the other thing I don't do is I don't set up safe on my gear switch anymore because I got so used to trying to close the gear or retract the gear that I would turn safe on and I'd just about crash into the tree line that I am, pointing out when I'm taking off, because AS3X is going to give you a lot more authority than safe, or at least authority to the amount of input that I'd be given at that time. You got to really pull that stick back to move in safe, whereas in normal flight mode with AS3X or with the AS3X off, you're gonna have a considerably more movement, okay? So like this. Now the other thing too is, let's look at this. Now I'm gonna walk back and I'm gonna go to AS3X settings, and I'm gonna change this 4X. Now that we're done setting up, we're gonna go back to 1X, okay? So that, you don't wanna leave it at 4X, it's way too much stabilizer. And so now that we have that about 50%, we can see things are still working. If I need more, I can always turn that up, and then I can set it to 2X and go back in here, and that'll be fine. The other thing too is, there's one other feature I want to show you, and it's, where is that? Is it other settings? Nope, it's gyro settings. System setup. Hand launch. Oh, it's utilities. Gyro response test. So check this out. This is crazy. The gyro response test is a new feature they added with the AS3X Plus. So now you can really see things work. Look at the aileron. So when I go up, look what happens. All the way up, all the way down. Now look at the elevator. All the way up, all the way down. All the way up, all the way down. Now I'm looking at that one. I'm looking at this one. All the way down, all the way up. It is very obvious. Now look at the steerable. Steerable, steerable, okay? Now watch this. Take off flaps, landing flaps. Take out landing flaps down. Still gonna test everything, okay? But you know why I don't like this gyro response test? Throttle cut is back on. Why do I not like this, camera crew?
Because you're not in
I'm
your
still in a
actual
test menu.
mode. Yeah.
I wanna see how it's gonna work in real life. So, of course, it's nice to have it, and now you'll notice that it's back to just ordinary function, which is really nice. I just like to test things the way that they're gonna be flown, okay? Because at the end of the day, who's responsible for your plane once you're in the air?
You are.
You are, okay? And truthfully, I gotta say, this plane looks cool. I'm excited to fly it. I wish it was simpler, because I think people get overwhelmed by the number of steps that we do on a plane like this. Don't be overwhelmed. Understand that we've been doing this a long time, and we have worked and added small feature sets to get to this.
Yep.
Okay? Just do what we do, and you can add and build from there a lot, okay?
And we're thinking through the process and talking through all the options, and you don't have to do that. Is that your way of telling me to stop talking?
It went forward.
I think I was standing here.
It went forward. Did you see that?
Yes, I felt it when it ran into me.
When it ran into you? But what I'm trying to say is, I don't know that I can trust the Predator ESC for pilot fatigue. So guess what? Guess what I'm gonna do? Guys, after all that mixing around, come on.
But then that means you don't have thrust reverse.
No, I'm gonna still have thrust reverse. I'm just
You're just not gonna do pilot fatigue.
I'm gonna reset this mix. Okay? So now all I've got is just ordinary controllable thrust reverse. So now I've got full fidelity thrust reverse and then pilot fatigue. And that should go to forward thrust, but it's not until I drop back below 50. Okay?
Right.
Once you drop below 50, it's gonna work. Now that I know that, I can act on that. If it's unreliable, I'd rather have it unreliably reliable.
I wonder if that's one of those things that we need to write like on the underside of the canopy or something in like red Sharpie that says like Predator ESC throttle cut has to be something to remind you, because like that's not a normal thing for us.
Nah, it's a normal thing. We just didn't know it until now. I'm telling you, those planes, you got to remember the way you're landing this plane, you're going to usually be below 50%.
Right. Yes, I agree.
But now that we know what to expect, I don't trust it until I see it.
Yeah.
The issue I have is that I saw enough unreliability in the behavior that I don't trust it hardly at all. Okay. Also, let's just talk about this. So we set up our dual rates. We set up our timer. We set up our throttle cut. We set up our thrust reverse, 3 settings: normal, forward thrust, then reverse thrust, then pilot fatigue, okay? All of which we've tested and retested and beat a dead horse with. Then we set up takeoff flaps and landing flaps, which are downward facing. We could do spoiler-ons. It's all gonna work. If you decide you want reflex, or not reflex, let me show you this other feature. If you decide to do it, you can do it. I'm not gonna do it, but I'll show you how to do it if you wanna do it. Click. This is called differential. Where the heck is differential? There it is. Okay, so differential, when it's on, I could tie it to a switch, okay? So when it's 100%, that means that the aileron that's going up is gonna go up and this one will not go down at all, okay? So let's say in switch position C, I want 100%. Okay, so 100%, look, only that one goes up and this one stays there, okay? Only that one goes up and that one stays there, you see? That's 100% looks like. Okay, now negative 100%, whoops, we'll go negative something else, okay? So negative 100%, why are your squirrely wheel screwed up? So now look, it's gonna only go down and not up. Only go down and not up. But it's still gonna roll the plane the same direction. Then that's gonna do the opposite, but it's gonna roll the plane the same direction because you have a redundant surface, okay? But what most of the time what people do is they will set a reflex, or not a reflex, but they'll set this to like, you know, because you've got it, you set it to like 40. Because then what happens is you get a little bit more efficiency, a little bit less adverse yaw. Here's the catch, and this is why I'm not doing this. First of all, because it's not needed on this plane. This is not a Cub, it's not a J3 Cub. J3 Cubs have nasty coupling, and so you will do that to help with coupling because then you have less mix to your rudder. Well, there is no rudder on this plane. You kind of want the coupling because it's gonna help you have the appearance of a coordinated turn. So, but on a J3 Cub, if you have coupling, when you let this aileron, okay, so let's say we're gonna roll that way. Okay, what happens is you drop this wing, okay, and you raise this wing. So you spoil the lift on this wing and you kind of stall it to a certain extent. And then this one, you end up moving through more air. You end up, it changes the way the plane moves through the air because you speed up one wing, you slow the other wing down. Okay, when you spoil the lift, you actually reduce the drag a little bit. You increase the drag over here. Or I'm sorry, I said that backward. So the point is, what happens is you have this weird yaw that happens on the J3 Cub. J3 Cub's over there behind the Draco and the SR-71, okay? It's huge. This is not gonna have that problem because it's a jet. It flies a lot different because the airframe is set up different. But differential is a tool that is available anytime you split out your ailerons. So if you did dual aileron and you don't want flaperons, then you can have access to that without having the flaperon menu. I don't know why you would ever choose that, but you can, okay? All right, we have literally talked about so much on this plane, it's ridiculous. We hope that this is valuable because we know a lot of you guys just need help with the answers to your questions. So we've done thrust reverse, we've talked lighting, we've talked wiring, we've talked all sorts of things that you probably didn't even realize you wanted to talk about. You probably didn't want to talk about. Let's talk about ordnance. Ordnance is going to make this thing fly like a turd. And so that's why I'm like super reluctant to actually put this stuff on. And plus my missiles are wrong, okay?
And if we have to glue those, we don't want the glued on ones, right?
Or do you want to glue them on and then just like...
sacrificial?
Look, I'm just gonna have to rip this to fix it. See, that's got a relief in it. Let's show the people at home what you'd have to do. If yours comes that way, you're gonna have to fix it too, correct? Isn't that correct, camera crew?
If you're gonna use them.
If you're gonna use them. So warn me if my battery's about to run out. Let's look at this. In order to fix this, I need to make this fin set and this fin set. Sounds like I'm talking about thin set and my name is Mike Tyson. Did you catch that?
I don't know.
Mike Tyson using fin set?
What?
Fin set?
No.
Because he talks with a lisp?
No.
Jeez. Okay, so there's the missile. So there's two things that are wrong. This is in the wrong position, okay? So this would need to be up just a little bit, but we'll get away with it where it is. So I'm gonna take my X-Acto knife and I'm gonna just carve just a hair more out of this, okay? So once that gets carved out, then I can take this knife and just carry along very carefully toward myself, but under control, okay? Then, they're both good. They should be about the same, okay? So then that's the other direction than what it should have been, or what it was, okay? See this one's down here? That needs to also go up here, okay? So we're gonna accomplish the same result, only it's a little bit easier this time because we're going from the end here. So I can just cut down like this. See, I only got 2 cuts then. All right, so now that we've done that, we can take some more China glue And the China glue is gonna go like this, just a little bit around the edge. And then the China glue is just gonna go a little bit around the edge. I hope they didn't just decide to send them all out this way. That would really tick me off. Okay, so there's that. Get the glue on there, smudge it around. Let that sit on the manual. And then we'll let this one get kind of spread around, smeared around a little bit. Then we'll let that sit. Now, while that's happening, I am gonna go ahead and glue this on, and we're just gonna let it rip off violently on our first landing, okay? Why do we want to see this missile? Because namely, you guys wanna see the ordnance. I know you do, and it does look pretty dang sweet. By the way, I was watching a video today, and it just irritates me. We try to bring good value to the channel. When we do our videos in such a way that, you know, we don't just do them so we can like sell a plane here and there. Although we do want to sell planes, guys. There's a bunch of reasons why we want to sell the planes. A, we want to grow the hobby. B, we love this hobby. C, the more of these things that get sold, the better they get, the cheaper they get. It drives the cost down. The cost of doing business gets spread. You got to remember, the engineering that goes into these models is kind of intense. There's a lot to it, guys. Okay, so I'm just putting this glue along this little rail, okay? So you see I'm gonna just wipe that with my finger, and I'm just gonna slather that down. And then I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna just spread a little teeny bit along there, just because I've got it on my finger right now. And then I'm gonna come in here and I'm just slather a little teeny bit. This would have been easier before the gear on, okay? So now that I've got that in there, rather than doing the smart thing like getting a Q-tip like I normally would, I'm gonna slather that in there too, and I'm gonna just let that sit for a minute. Okay, so now this one is gonna be backward now, okay? So you see that's not gonna be exactly right. It's gonna be down further, but it's still gonna sit into the pocket okay, right? So there, got that glued on. Just spread that in, slather that a little bit, and then just a little teeny bit there and a little teeny bit there. Then this can sit on the paper and to heck with it, right?
Okay.
Now the other one, we want to probably do just a tiny, teeny, tiny bit, as our kid would say. Just a tiny bit right there. And we'll just slather it there. And then we'll put it right there. So what I was trying to say is we try to bring value so that you guys can actually get something out of watching these videos. These are long videos. It's a huge time commitment for you. If you're brand new to the hobby, we're not just gonna put this on the table and like press on it and like, you know, what the heck does that do for anybody? We wanna bring real value to real people that really need some help. So the blue one goes here. So this should stick on there nicely now. And we're gonna give you good advice like, hey, don't mount this, okay? If you know you're gonna belly land, don't mount it. You know, it's just a waste of your time. But we'll waste our time because we know you guys wanna see how this looks fully built, okay? And so when I see these videos where people just throw things on tables and, you know, don't even really do anything, to me, it's just like, what are you doing? What is the point of that? And we see a lot of it these days. So on Brian Phillips RC, we are committed to bringing real value to you guys, our audience. And in exchange for that, when we ask you guys to buy stuff from the links, we understand that that is something that you guys are doing for us, and that's an exchange of value, and so everybody wins. You know what? That's still on the top part. I was mistaken. But that's okay, because just a little bit extra slather of China glue is no big deal, okay? So guys, if you watch Brian Phillips RC and you think, man, that video was too short, you're our type of customer right there. Okay. So you see that's not gonna sit down quite the same as that one because it's just not laid out exactly right. And I'm trying to intentionally leave that there. You know why? You know why?
Why?
Because it's probably gonna peel that paint off.
Yeah.
And it's already gonna be a mess. So you suppose, well, throw those away for me there, camera crew. Mm-hmm. You suppose if I were to take my Q-tip, I could get that out of there? Is that a negatory?
I bet it's gonna peel the paint.
You think it's gonna peel the paint? You guys wanna make bets? I bet it will too. But I just wanna see, I'm gonna teach the people so they can learn a little something from my screw up, okay? So get that CA, or not CA, but get that schmutz off of there. So guys, not to diminish anybody else's efforts here on YouTube or Instagram or wherever it was. I saw it on Instagram today. But it's just like, at the end of the day, guys, everybody in the hobby, You know, I want as many people in the hobby as possible, but it does water down our efforts quite a bit. And we're trying to do real things and big things. And if you haven't heard about it, we're building basically an aerodrome here. And an aerodrome is crazy. If you've ever been to Joe Knoll, Triple Tree Aerodrome is an aerodrome. It's basically like a giant airport for RC stuff, and they fly full scale in there too. And guess what we're gonna do? We're flying full scale in here. In fact, I got somebody coming tomorrow to take a look at the site to see if they can land, hopefully, what should be a Super Cub, okay? And then we got another guy we're talking to that's out of state. He's thinking about flying his J3 Cub, and it's a 1948 J3 Cub, right?
1946.
1946, so it's an old one. Mm-hmm. It's almost 100 years old.
No.
1946? Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, I was thinking the wrong year. Duh. But yeah, exactly. But, well, it's closer to 100 years old.
Well, I know it is. But
Then it's not. Isn't that crazy, though? I mean, I was thinking 50 years, and I said, no, it's like 100 years. All right, so there's the inboard ordnance there, okay? So now we'll put the rest of the stuff on. I guess my point is this. Guys, we're here to bring you real value. We want you guys to get something out of these videos. It's not just like some big, waste of everybody's time, we hope. Because if you are watching these Unbox build radio setups, it's probably because you need a hand with the radio setup, mostly is where we kind of tend to think people need help. And then if it's not, leave it in the comments below. Let us know what you're into and why you do watch, especially if you're watching the whole video, because these are huge videos. They're longer than
run your ailerons now and make sure those aren't rubbing. That one's not.
Nope. Oh man, that is tight. I mean, they did some measurement.
They did.
Okay, guys, that does look pretty dang sweet. So, I hate being wrong, but I love being wrong when it makes the plane better, okay? Because if I could just be wrong on every plane and have them work perfectly, flawlessly every time, I would be thrilled. And I gotta say, this thing is absolutely gorgeous. It took a lot more effort than I thought to set up, and largely because of the Predator ESC issues.
Right.
Now, also, I wanna talk about one other thing. Ground handling on a plane like this is usually not something to die for because you just don't get that much throw, okay? If that's a problem for you, there is another trick. The trick you can do is you can go in here, you can go servo setup, travel. Under travel, you can go to the rudder and you can open that up to like 150. Okay, it's gonna give you more throw, but you may need to increase your gains a little bit on that channel so the AS3X can help keep up. The other thing to keep in mind is you'll notice that they almost never seem to be symmetrical. That's because they never machine that music wire. They never machine the flat totally square. And it's like, what do you do to fix it? There isn't really a good way to fix it, okay? The only way to do it is to mechanically trim it, because like right now I can tell it's gonna veer to the left. So the only way to fix that would be under servo setup, or you could just trim with the rudder. See how it's trimming? Well, the problem is, look, we've used 58. We've used quite a bit of our throw just to trim, okay? So now the other thing you can do, look how far off that is. If that's a whole spline position, you can undo that screw, pick it up off the spline, move it over, and then stick it back down. And that's gonna give you full range of motion. But why do I have to do that? Machine the freaking metal right. So annoying. So anyway, that's that. Because we lose throw in the range. If you have 150 to 150, and all of a sudden you trim over here, well, guess what happens? This stops, because we're at the end of the stop. Like there's a stop inside the servo. There's a mechanical chunk of plastic that hits. It won't move any further, okay? It may not be at 150, but it'd be really dang close to it, okay? All right, now, last thing is, with ordnance, can we CG the plane? You can test it, and it makes it tail heavy, okay? So if you're gonna fly with ordnance, remember, you need to push that battery forward just a wee bit. So that, ooh, probably not that much, but let's say it goes there, so it's, a quarter inch or so past. Let's see if that took care of it. And apples for apples, we're testing with the same battery. Yeah, that's pretty good there. And this is gonna be so much more draggy, it's gonna be incredible, okay? So there you have it, guys. The F-18 high fidelity, whatever that means, V2 from FMS. 64 millimeters of pure delight with a huge, powerful Predator ESC. Now, If you want reliable thrust reverse and you want pilot fatigue, my suggestion is it's not that big a deal. You can swap that thing out for an avian ESC and you will get one pluggable channel back if you want. Now, secondly, we talked about this briefly. If you decide you'd rather have a Televon setup or Televator, Tailorons, then you could have these act as ailerons, but you have to modify a cable. And then you can actually save one channel from the flaperons and you could just set them up as only flaps, okay? But then you need a servo signal reverser. So there's two modifications you'd have to make to do it in that configuration. Or add an avian ESC that saves you a channel, you keep your flaperons, and then you can do that because you've given up thrust reverse. And then you can do Televon, okay? So pretty cool stuff. I mean, there's a lot of features you can do. Remember, if you would change your setup from what you did today, you have to go through first time AS3X and safe setup, okay? Once you reset those settings to any of the servos, beyond a little bit of trim, okay? If you open up the ranges, sure, you probably should technically go back through first time setup, especially if you're using nose wheel stabilizers, okay? Then you'd have to go back into nose wheel stabilizers. Remember, that nose wheel stabilization is not using the rudder, it's using an auxiliary. You cannot use the rudder for that feature because it assumes there's already a rudder attached and then a steerable nose wheel is a separate channel now, okay? Remember that. We've gone over that before. With the Super Scorpion, we had better luck setting it up because it was like our second time doing it. With the Avanti 90, we were kind of struggling through it because it was brand new for us, okay? This one doesn't need it. You just have regular master gain, and by the way, it's because we've unplugged. Now it's working, yep. So gain's all the way up, can definitely tell. All right, guys, we've literally beat the dead horse, proverbial dead horse. This thing looks amazing. It feels like it's gonna be good in the air. I hope I don't have to eat my words on the ordnance because if it looks good with ordnance, that's gonna be awesome. But I'm gonna be tempted to pull off the gear and see if there's a way to land it in tall grass because we still have tall grass this year. Normally we would have harvested it, but our second half of the year was terrible for crop production, AKA hay. And we also had some construction going on, so it just didn't happen. So tall grass might be the ticket for this plane. Oh, and then also LEDs. I know we talked about this real briefly. If you take off your missile rails, you will have better access to see those, and that is really helpful. And by the way, FMS, thanks for not making them flash because flashing nav lights is a misnomer. You don't want them to flash. Having another anti-crash beacon that flashes or strobes is totally fine. Or strobes. Strobes are fine, okay? Also, these feel a little bit loose. If you have a problem with that, you might throw just a teeny bit of glue on there or CA over them, let them dry, and then slide them in because it'll just thicken up the plastic a little bit. It'll bite better. All right, that's all we got for you. This plane has been a handful. And we hope you guys answered a lot of the questions you might have had. And if you did, please smash the like button on the way out the door. And if you haven't already seen the maidens, obviously they will have been published by the time you watch this. They're available for sure. So if you want to watch those, you can see how this thing turned out. If there's any major adjustments or minor adjustments, we generally talk about it there, but just pay special attention to the order that the flights come. Sometimes we do them out of order because the plane shows really good on the third flight, but not the second. And maybe it showed really good on the fourth, but not the first. We'll still show the first in most cases, but we want to give you guys full truth, nothing but the truth so help us God, but we do want to present these planes in a way that they are as awesome as they can be, okay? That all being said, I think the AS3X and safe setup is getting to where it is easy to do for us because we've done it so many times. We understand that you're going to watch a few of these Unbox Build radio setups. You're going to get to the point where you don't need to watch the Unbox Build radio setup. Maybe just come back and watch the maiden flights for us. Or if you think about it, buy the planes from the links in the video description below. That'll help support our financial status so that we can pay for giant, huge, expensive projects like that dirt work we just did over there or this pond that we just built so we can have the damn runway. And the damn gift shop is going to go over there on the dirt work, which incidentally is, it's done. There's preliminary dirt work. And then of course, once the building's up, there'll be a little bit of finished grading and dirt work that follows. But at this point, we have the pad ready to go. So we're going to start taking bids. We're going to start building that building as soon as we overwinter. So probably in like 3 to 4 months, we'll hopefully have all the plans and specs and permitting done, and then we'll start building the building over there. So it's really happening in real time and space. Full-scale airplanes have landed, well, airplane has landed here on this property, and there'll be more to come. So if you're interested in flying a full-scale airplane in, please hit us up. Just email us. You don't have to like give us your personal information on a comment. That's not a good idea. Go to brianphillipsrc@gmail.com. Is that right? Mm-hmm. And you can send us messaging there, and we will open a correspondence with you. All right. Also, other ways to support us. If you don't want to buy this plane, obviously you can watch a plethora of videos. Just the stuff in the background is just the tip of the iceberg. Brian Phillips RC is going to help you sort by type or by brand affiliate or hobby shop that we worked with over here. And it will make it really easy for you to find something else that you maybe like. You can support us by watching those videos and then going and buying the planes that you can't live without, or the helicopters, VTOLs, quads, whatever it happens to be, lawnmowers, sleep blowers, whatever it is. We really appreciate you being here with us, but that's at bprc.me or brianphillipsrc.com. Short domain, long domain, doesn't matter, it's the same place. And we also have supplies over there, and we have beginner planes. If you think this is a beginner plane, that's because you're listening to Chinese marketing. Stop doing that, you're gonna get burned. We don't want you to quit because you listened to the wrong guy. Stabilizer worked. That's why we're here. When I started, almost 9.5 years ago, 9.25 years ago, whatever it was, I had a hard time getting advice. I had a hard time getting the help I needed. I was coming back to a hobby that I just didn't know much about, okay? We'll get you where you wanna be. We'll get you out of the chair and into the air, because at the end of the day, it's hard to do this. It is a hard skill. It is not fall out of your pocket and you've got it, right? You can't just pay for this. You can't go work hard at your day job and come home and be better at this because you worked hard. In fact, it kind of works opposite that way. So we want you guys to be in the air with us, flying, enjoying these things and just moving through the ranks just like we are. Don't live vicariously through Brian Phillips RC. Do it yourself, okay? So links are in the video description below that. Like I said, Patreon, PayPal, YouTube super thanks, all much appreciated. And if you don't like any of that, you can just do one-time donations on PayPal. The Patreon's a monthly, YouTube membership's monthly, and YouTube super thanks are one time. So we really appreciate you guys. Any of you that have done that in the past, we really appreciate you guys. Our all-time, long-time supporters. One of them was the guy that helped line up the flight in. Super cool. Thanks, Nolan. We appreciate you. Other than that, I think FMS is putting out some good stuff. They still have some shortfallings, but I think largely it is to hit the market they're trying to sell to, which is frustrating for us because we want to just see the best you could possibly make. And I think that that's probably not practical to assume is going to happen. All right, questions, comments, leave below. That's all we got for you. Long video. Thanks for sticking in there. Brian Phillips RC signing out. Come back for more.